My wife demanded a divorce at my mother's funeral, but I signed the papers without hesitation. Now, she begs for forgiveness, after I inherited $2 million. Hello Reddit. After my mother's funeral, my wife served me with divorce papers. Perfect timing. She said. Exactly. One less thing to worry about. I was still in my funeral costume when I signed them in the parking lot. She was unaware that I recently received a $3.5 million bequest from my mother. She also received absolutely nothing as a result of the prenuptial agreement she had insisted on 3 years prior. Even her attorney was giggling uncontrollably. Allow me to reiterate how we arrived at this point. I'm James, a 3-4-year-old 4th grade elementary school teacher in Minnesota. I adore the kids and my job, but the compensation is terrible. Although I make enough to get by on $45,000 a year, I'm not exactly rolling in it. I've been a teacher for 8 years. Margaret, my mother, was a saint. After my father died when I was 6, I was left to raise my sister Emily and myself. For the majority of my youth, Mom worked 2 jobs. Cleaning offices at night while working as a secretary during the day. Never once did I complain. Made sure we had everything we required, even if it meant she didn't. Emily and I were the only people who knew about Mom's financial prowess. Since the 1,980 seconds, she had been investing every dime she had while doing those jobs. Consistent, modest amounts, nothing out of the ordinary. In the 1,990 seconds, when rental houses were inexpensive, she purchased them, bought tech stocks before to their explosion. She had subtly amassed a sizable portfolio by the time I started college. But she never displayed it. Still operated a vehicle that was 15 years old. Coupons are still clipped. She continued to reside in the small home she had purchased in 1987. Let me now tell you about Sophie, my ex-wife. I first saw her at a friend's wedding 4 years ago. She worked as a real estate agent for upscale properties, and had a gorgeous smile and long dark hair. She earned a respectable salary, possibly $110,000 annually on commission. I was a fool who thought with portions of his body that aren't the brain, even though the warning flags were there from day one. Her family was the first warning sign. This enormous home in a wealthy area was the residence of her parents. Her mom didn't work and spent her days at country clubs, while her dad ran a series of auto shops. They had a old money mentality, demeaning anyone who performed a routine job. Her father asked me what I did for a living over our first family meal. The room became around 40 degrees colder when I stated primary school instructor. Teaching? Her mother asked again, as if I had mentioned that I cleaned sewers. Sophie stepped right in and said, "How noble of you," adding that teaching was only a stepping stone and that I was about to transition into administration. I was attempting to create a good impression, so even though I hadn't planned anything like that, I chose to ignore it. Ryan, her brother, was much worse. He earned 6 figures while doing essentially nothing at their dad's dealership. Boasted about his downtown condo and Audi on our initial meeting. He genuinely chuckled when I told him that I drove a 2009 Honda Civic, saying, "That's cute, like a starter car." However, Sophie didn't seem like her family, or at least I believed that she did. She would tell me that she didn't give a damn about money, and that what was important was that I enjoyed and excelled at my work. She said that her family was materialistic, but she wasn't. In hindsight, all of the statements were false. After a year of dating, we became engaged. It was an easy suggestion. I took her to the park where we went on our first date, and proposed with a ring I had saved for 6 months. I could afford it. Even though it wasn't much. Perhaps half a carat. When she spotted it, her smile momentarily wavered before she was able to correct it. It was only a split second, but I saw it. I ought to have focused on that particular moment. Should have understood that a simple engagement ring disappointed the money nomad woman. The planning of the wedding was a nightmare. This large, 250-person country club event was what her parents intended. I wanted something more reasonably priced and smaller. We made a deal, which meant that since her parents were already covering the majority of the costs, I gave in on everything. 200 of the 250 guests were friends and business associates of her family. This crazy mansion with a price tag that made me sick was the venue. My automobile was less expensive than her clothing. Everything needed to be outstanding and flawless. 3 months prior to the wedding, my mother approached me with an offer. In order to prevent me from feeling totally wooed by Sophie's parents, she wanted to offer me $25,000 to help with the wedding costs. I was surprised. That was far more than I had assumed my mother could afford. It's my money, And I want you to have a wedding you can be proud of. Not simply something her parents plan. I spent 12,000 of it on the rehearsal dinner, and my portion of the wedding. Mom, that's too much. I can't accept that. Save the remaining 12,000. I kept the entire sum. My mother gave me a secret from Sophie. I felt compelled to keep that to myself. The prenuptial discussion followed. Sophie brought it up at dinner, 3 months before the wedding. We were asked to sign a prenuptial agreement that her family's attorney had prepared. She said, "It's just to protect both of us," and moved the paper across the table. I read it and saw. My parents think it's smart given the family business and everything. The vocabulary was rather simple. In the event of a divorce, each person's contributions to the marriage remained theirs. Unless the marriage lasted more than 10 years, there would be no alimony. Inheritances remained distinct property, but assets earned during a marriage would be divided 50/50. I was impressed by how much it favored her. It was obviously written with the assumption that she was the one having property to safeguard. There were provisions protecting her commission income, her trust fund, which I was unaware she had, and her future inheritance from her parents. "Your parents really think we need this?" I responded. "It's just smart business. In any case, we will never get divorced. It's merely a formality." This is where I made a choice that saved my life. I informed her that before I signed, I wanted to have it reviewed by my own attorney. She instantly became defensive, claiming that I didn't trust her family's attorney was offensive, but I refused to back down. I wanted someone to protect my interests, if we were signing a legal instrument. He discovered a family law specialist named Robert through a teacher buddy. He offered me his evaluation after going over the prenuptial agreement. "This document is designed to protect wealthy people from gold diggers. Your fiancé's family clearly thinks you're the gold digger. To be honest, though, this also protects you because of the discrepancy in your salary. You owe her nothing if you get divorced. Additionally, any inheritance you get remains solely yours." That final sentence stayed with me. Any inheritance remains distinct property. I put my signature on it. Sophie was overjoyed that I had changed my mind at last. Her parents appeared happy that I had made the correct decision. Everything went according to plan for the wedding. For the first 6 months of their marriage, everything went well, nor outstanding, nor awful, simply adequate. Our combined income allowed us to live in a respectable 2-bedroom apartment. I continued to teach, and Sophie continued to work in real estate, but gradually things began to change. My income was the subject of Sophie's remarks, which were slights with a hint of humor. She would gripe that my teaching pay prevented us from taking more luxurious trips. She would point out homes that her clients were purchasing, and lament that we would never be able to purchase such a thing. It was terrible with her relatives. Her parents' Sunday dinners become opportunities for passive-aggressive criticism of my professional decisions. Her father would ask me how the ABCs were going after discussing Ryan's most recent promotion or Sophie's largest commission. Her mother would ask me when I intended to advance in my job, and show me images of her friends' children, all of whom were in the fields of finance, medicine, or law. I began to dread those dinners, and came up with reasons to avoid them. When I failed to attend family gatherings, Sophie would become upset, and accuse me of embarrassing her. I would point out that her relatives insulted my career the entire time. She would accuse me of being overly sensitive. Mom saw how I had changed. Although she had misgivings about the family, she had always liked Sophie. After a visit, she drew me aside around a year into our marriage. She inquired frankly, "Are you happy?" "Yes," was what I wanted to say. I wanted to think I was content. I couldn't lie to my mother though, as I sat there staring at her. I don't know. At times, it seems like Sophie married me for what she believed I could become rather than for who I am. Mom gave a slow nod. She was obviously correct when she said, "That's not a marriage, sweetheart. That's a disappointment waiting to happen." Mom was right about people all the time. In the second year, things worsened. Sophie began discussing my career change more seriously. Unable to purchase a home in the desired community. Unable to join her buddies on their vacation in Europe. Unable to join the country club that her parents belonged to. We were doing well financially, I might add. We weren't hurting. We had savings, and the only debt we had was my tiny school loan. For Sophie, however, achieving well was insufficient. She desired more. Around this time, Mom's health began to deteriorate. She had been diagnosed with early-stage heart disease, at the age of 68. It's not life-threatening, but it's enough to frighten us all. In order to assist with appointments and errands, Emily and I began sharing weekend stays. Sophie detested it. Said that I was staying at my mother's place too frequently. Said that mom could care for herself. Sophie rolled her eyes and accused me of being overly theatrical, when I explained that after raising us for decades, it was now our responsibility to assist our mother. About 6 months ago, shortly after our 3rd anniversary, our marriage reached a breaking point. Sophie had been working longer hours, receiving calls in the other room, and becoming more and more aloof. I missed the pattern because I was too preoccupied with mom's concerns. Mom's heart has gotten worse. She was monitored in and out of the hospital. Her heart was weaker than expected, according to the doctor. And surgery might be necessary. I was scared, as was Emily. Sophie was already dismissing her when I made the statement. Well, she lived a good life. At least she's had time to get her affairs in order. Mom wasn't dying, she was sick. There's a difference. I started looking for the receipts at that point. Costly meals at eateries I had never visited. Sophie justified the hotel room expenditures on our joint credit card as client meetings. I bought flowers but never got them. I'm not a moron. I was aware of the situation. However, I was too preoccupied with my mother to address my failing marriage at the same time. I simply allowed it to occur. Stopped posing inquiries. Lost interest in Sophie's whereabouts and companionship. Before I could say anything, Mom noticed. She's cheating on you, isn't she? She asked me across the kitchen table one weekend when I was staying with her. I didn't even try to deny it. She simply nodded. Mom said, "What are you going to do about it?" Mom leaned across the table and grasped my hand, saying, "I don't know. Deal with it after you're better. I can't handle both crises at once. I have something to tell you, James. My estate lawyer has been meeting with me, arranging everything in case something goes wrong. Over the years, my investments have performed well, better than you think. You and Emily will be taken care of when I'm gone. Incredibly well cared for." She refused to give me precise figures. Simply stated that we shouldn't worry about money when the time came, because she had accumulated a decent sum. I thought she was referring to a split of perhaps 200,000 or 300,000 between Emily and me. Not revolutionary, but sufficient to be beneficial. I didn't know. Mom underwent the procedure 3 months ago. She never fully recovered, but it went as smoothly as could be anticipated. Her heart simply wasn't strong enough. Emily and I worked turns at the hospital, while she was in and out of consciousness for 6 weeks. Sophie came twice. She spent less than an hour on both occasions, primarily using her phone to check work-related emails. The nurses mistook her for Emily's friend rather than my wife. She was so cut off from my family. On a Tuesday morning, Mom died. When she left, I was holding her hand. She gave my fingers a final squeeze before leaving, whispering, "You're going to be okay. Better than okay, trust me." The sorrow was overwhelming. Sophie was upset with me for taking a week off work because I was pouting. She wanted me to return to normal as soon as possible so we could continue living our lives. As if her routine was disrupted by my mother's death. The following Saturday was set aside for the funeral. I wrote the eulogy, made arrangements, and selected the music that Mom would have liked over the week. While coping with her own sadness, Emily did her best to assist. Her spouse was very helpful, looking after their children so she could concentrate on the plans. Sophie was not there at all. Claimed to have crucial client meetings. Weir stated that she was unable to reschedule. Mom would be aware that work comes first. I was trying to fall asleep in bed on Friday night before the funeral, when Sophie arrived late from another alleged client meal. I sensed something was about to happen, as she sat on the edge of the bed. Her words, "We need to talk." Fantastic. The English language's 4 worst terms. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a long time. This marriage isn't working. I think we should get divorced. I was simply staring at her. 4 days ago, my mother passed away. She was currently requesting a divorce, and the funeral was scheduled for tomorrow. "Can this wait until after the funeral?" I replied. "I think it's better to be honest about where we stand. I've already spoken to a lawyer. The papers are being drawn up. We can make this quick and painless if we both agree to the terms." The terms? The prenup is pretty clear. We each keep what we brought in. We split the joint savings 50/50. The apartment is a rental, so we just need to figure out who moves out. I gazed at her as I sat up. Observe her closely. The night before my mother's burial, this woman I had married 3 years prior was requesting a divorce. I said, "Who is he?" She was polite enough to appear shocked. "What? The guy you've been seeing. Who is he? I don't know what you're talking about. Sophie. I've known for months. She sat silent for a long time before saying, I just didn't have the energy to deal with it while Mom was dying. So, who is he? She then gave a shrug. His name is Jason. He's a commercial real estate developer. We met through work. How long? Does it matter? How long, Sophie? About 8 months. 8 months, in fact. While my mother was dying. She had been unfaithful to me for 8 months. He treats me like I deserve to be treated. He's ambitious. He's successful. He's not content being a school teacher for the rest of his life. And then it appeared, the actual problem. I wasn't successful enough for her, not because I had done anything wrong. It wasn't enough ambitious. Wasn't earning enough money. Fine. I said plainly. If you want a divorce, we'll get divorced. But can we please wait until after I bury my mother to discuss the details? I think it's better to have everything out in the open now. Better for who? You. Because it's sure not better for me to be dealing with this right now. She rose up. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. I've already told the lawyer to have the papers ready by Monday. We can sign them next week. She went out. I sat there in the dark, wondering how my life had gone apart so thoroughly in less than a week. The next morning was the funeral morning. I put on my suit, made some notes for the eulogy, and headed to the church where the event was being conducted. Emily was already there with her family, greeting guests as they arrived. The church filled up soon. Mom had a lot of friends from her years in the neighborhood, her former co-workers, neighbors, people from church, my fellow teachers who'd heard about her passing. It was standing room only by the time the service started. Sophie showed up 15 minutes late, slipping into a pew in the back. Didn't sit with me, didn't acknowledge me, just sat there checking her phone. The service was lovely. The priest spoke of Mom's generosity and kindness. Emily offered a heartfelt statement about what a great mother she'd been. Then it was my turn. Didn't even pretend to care enough to come to the graveside service. We got through the burial. People came up to give condolences, share memories of Mom. Tell me what a fantastic woman she'd been. I was on autopilot, thanking everybody mechanically while my brain fought to process the reality that my wife had walked out of the funeral. After the burial, there was a reception at a local restaurant. Emily had organized it, and it was great. People dining, exchanging tales, celebrating Mom's life. I was standing at the buffet table when my phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. Sophie was leaning against her car with a manila letter in her hand as I stepped outside and said, I'm in the parking lot. We need to talk now. She appeared agitated, as if I were preventing her from doing something crucial. Sorry to interrupt your day, she remarked cynically. She handed me the envelope and said, but I need you to sign these. When I opened it, I discovered fully completed divorce paperwork. I only need signatures. You couldn't wait one more day. You had to bring these to my mother's funeral. Perfect timing. Actually, one less thing to worry about now that your mom's gone. You won't be distracted by taking care of her anymore. We can both move on with our lives. I was just staring at her. My mother's passing was a convenient time to file for divorce, according to the guy I had married. You know what? She was correct. Sign them. Let's just get this over with. I took out a pen, leaned against her car, and signed each sheet that required my signature. Why drag it out? I asked. Neglected to read the fine print. I didn't bargain. I just signed. She appeared taken aback by my speedy completion. That's it. You're not going to fight this? Why would I fight it? You clearly don't want to be married to me. You've been seeing someone else for 8 months. You just called my mother's death convenient timing. I'm not going to beg you to stay. I returned the paperwork to her. She accepted them, appearing strangely disappointed that I had not resisted. I'll have my lawyer file these Monday morning. You should start looking for a new apartment. I'm keeping our place since I make more money and can afford it on my own. Fine, take the apartment, take whatever you want, I don't care anymore. She got into her vehicle and left. In my funeral attire, I stood in the parking lot. On the day I buried my mother, I formally divorced my wife. You mean rock bottom? However, I had no idea what was going to happen. On Monday afternoon, Mom's will was supposed to be read. I went to the lawyer's office to meet Emily. David was a man who had spent years managing Mom's estate planning. That morning, Sophie texted me to let me know that she was preparing the divorce paperwork. My marriage was so formally over by the time I arrived to David's office. David was an elderly man with gentle eyes and a nice demeanor. After offering his condolences for Mom, He began to work. Your mother was very specific about her wishes. She made multiple revisions to her will over the years, but the final draft was finished only 3 months ago. Mom realized she might not have much time left following her operation 3 months ago. David started reading after opening a folder. The first things were heartfelt. Emily will receive Mom's jewelry. We will divide her photo albums. And different friends and family members will receive her personal belongings. Then he reached the property. 3 rental properties were owned by Margaret. In the 1,990 seconds, she bought 2 houses as investments in addition to the one she resided in. Together, the 3 properties have a current market worth of about $1.2 million. Both Emily and James are to share these equally. Emily and I looked at each other in disbelief. $1.2 million worth of property. This exceeded our expectations. Even though Mom had informed us she had done well with investments. David went on. Margaret also had investment accounts with different companies, equities, bonds, mutual funds, and some recent cryptocurrency purchases. James and Emily will split the roughly $2.5 million total value of these accounts evenly. The room began to swirl. An investment of $2.5 million. My mother, a former janitor and secretary, had amassed $2.5 million. Additionally, a $450,000 life insurance policy, and other bank accounts totaling about $350,000 will be divided equally. David's eyes averted from the pages. The total estimated worth of Margaret's estate is around $4.5 million. You each stand to inherit about $2 million after taxes and legal fees. I was having trouble breathing. I have $2 million left by my mother. Emily was in tears. Tears of gratitude, disbelief, and happiness were mixed together. With an equally shocked expression, her husband wrapped his arm around her. However, my mind was calculating. I was specifically considering the prenuptial agreement I had signed 3 years prior. Inheritances remained separate property according to the prenuptial agreement. Sophie had insisted on the prenuptial agreement to safeguard the fortune of her family. David had much to accomplish. Margaret left detailed directions as well. She knew about James's marital troubles. He produced a sealed letter in my mother's handwriting that was addressed to me. David gave it to me, while continuing to speak. She wanted to ensure that in the event of a divorce, this inheritance would be completely protected. She worked with me to structure everything, so that not a single dollar could be claimed as marital property. The prenup you signed helps, but she went further. Everything is in trusts with specific clauses preventing any spousal claims. I saluted the letter as I opened it. It started, "My dearest James," in Mom's tidy handwriting. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm so sorry I can't be there with you, but I need you to know something. I've been watching your marriage for the past few years. And I've seen how Sophie treats you. I've seen how her family looks down on you. I've seen you dimming your own light to make her feel brighter. That's not what love looks like, sweetheart. Real love builds you up. It doesn't tear you down for not making enough money, or not being ambitious enough. You are exactly who you're supposed to be. Teaching those kids, making a difference in their lives. That's worth more than any executive salary, or fancy title. I've left you enough money that you'll never have to worry about finances again. You can keep teaching because you love it, not because you're stuck. You can leave that marriage if it's making you miserable. You have options now. Use them wisely. And James, that prenup Sophie insisted on. Best thing that ever happened to you." I read the letter twice and then a third time. Not a penny of this inheritance is hers. I made sure of it. All my love, Mom. My mother had been aware. She had been preparing for this moment, and had witnessed everything. Emily began smiling through her tears as she read over my shoulder. She was correct when she said, "Oh my gosh. Mom basically just gave you the ultimate revenge." That morning, I had signed divorce papers. Documents modeled like a prenuptial agreement intended to safeguard Sophie's possessions. Documents that she had hurriedly filed, presumably out of concern that I would attempt to take part of her money in the divorce. However, Sophie was unaware that my mother had recently bequeathed me $2 million. Furthermore, none of it was marital property because of the prenuptial agreement she had insisted on. I owned it, totally, completely my. David had a small smile on his face. Margaret had foreseen this. She requested that I provide you this additional letter to give to your soon-to-be ex-wife. With a frustrated expression, she replied, "What do you want? We're divorced. You don't get to just show up here." I gave her the sealed envelope containing her name, which had been sent by Mom's lawyer. "I know. I just wanted to give you something." She viewed it with suspicion. "What is this?" "A letter. You should read it. I turned to leave, but I remained near enough to hear her open it. I wanted to see this moment. Call me petty. There was a rustle of paper, quiet, and then what sounded like she had choked on something. Wait, she exclaimed. I turned around and said, wait. What is this? Her face was pale as she stood in the doorway with the letter. Is this real? Your mom left you over $2 million? Yep. Day after you served me divorce papers at her funeral. I found out at the will reading. Sophie's hands were shaking. But you signed the divorce papers. We're divorced. This is all yours thanks to that prenup you insisted on. Every penny is mine. Inheritances remain separate property. Remember, you wanted to protect your family's money from me. I saw her realize. Worked out great. It protected my mom's money from you. She was likely concerned that I would attempt to claim a portion of her commission income, or future inheritance, which is why she hurried the divorce, and pressured me to sign it. Before I could receive any of her money, she had wanted to put an end to the relationship. Rather, she had terminated our relationship just before I inherited a fortune. You knew, she charged. You knew when you signed the papers. I didn't. Actually, Mom never told me how much she had. The will reading was scheduled for Monday, but I signed your papers on Saturday. I had no idea what was coming. Sophie's face turned red instead of pale. You can't do this. This isn't fair. We can contest the divorce. On what grounds? You want it out? You served me papers at my mother's funeral. You made me sign them in a parking lot. There's nothing to contest, but the money is mine. It's protected by the same prenup you insisted on to protect your family's assets. Funny how these things work out. I observed her as she processed this. I saw her realize that she had forfeited more than $2 million, because she was unable to wait another week to file for divorce. I heard you're already living with Jason. Bet he's going to be disappointed to find out you're not the rich, successful real estate agent he thought you were. James. Wait. Let's talk about this. Maybe we made a mistake. Oh. We made a mistake. You made a mistake when you cheated on me. Made a mistake when you walked out of my mother's funeral. Made a mistake when you called her death, convenient timing. And you made a really big mistake when you pushed me to sign those divorce papers, before asking if Mom had left me anything. Her neighbor had came outside to investigate the disturbance. Seeing this, Sophie lowered her voice. Please, James, we had good times. We can have them again. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We had good times when you thought I might have potential to make more money. The second you realized I was happy being a teacher, you checked out. The only reason you're interested now is because I'm about to have more money than you. That's not true. It's completely true. If Mom had left me nothing, you'd be thrilled with this divorce. You'd be bragging to your friends about upgrading to Jason. But now that I'm actually worth something to you, suddenly you made a mistake. I accessed my texts after taking out my phone. Found the one she'd sent the morning of the funeral. See this? This is what you texted me about my mother's death. That it was perfect timing. You didn't even have the decency to pretend to care. And now you want me to believe you've changed? Sophie was crying uncontrollably. This time, she shed real tears instead of the phony ones she'd used when she needed something from me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about all of it. About your mom. About Jason. About everything. I believe you're sorry. Sorry you're not getting any of the money. Her expression stiffened. The tears ceased. The real Sophie was there. Your mom must have been laughing her head off writing that will, setting up her son to screw over his wife. Ex-wife. And Mom wasn't screwing you over. She was protecting me. There's a difference. I strolled back to my vehicle. Sophie alternated between apologizing and getting angry as she called after me. I chose to ignore it all. For the final time, I got into my car and left that phase of my life behind. The result was stunning. Within days, Sophie's family learned of her mother's inheritance. ADOT. The invambly nut. Small-town rumors spread quickly. According to reports, her parents were incensed that she had hurried the divorce. In an attempt to mend fences and suggest that Sophie and I look into reconciliation, her brother Ryan actually called me. I informed him that Sophie was living with Jason, and she appeared content with her decision. He ended the call. Sophie made several attempts to call. She sent me lengthy emails when I didn't respond, explaining that she had made terrible mistakes but that if I just gave her another chance, we could overcome them. How she still loved me despite the pointlessness of the situation with Jason. Without answering, I forwarded each email to my attorney. He said they would be helpful if she attempted to challenge the divorce. which she was unable to do, and he thought they were hilarious. It seems that the boyfriend, Jason, also learned about the inheritance. He broke up with Sophie in a matter of days. According to Emily's friend who knew someone who knew him. I guess he didn't want to date a woman who had recently given up millions. A true stand-up comedian. When Sophie's reputation suffered, her real estate company suffered as well. It turns out that serving divorce papers at a funeral makes people not want to work with that person. She was dropped by several clients. According to reports, her parents were providing her with financial support as she re-established her clientele. In the interim, my life significantly improved. I left teaching because I wanted to do it my way. Not because I didn't love it. Used a portion of the inheritance to launch a small tutoring company for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Families are charged according to their financial capacity. Some pay nothing, while others pay the full price. Without worrying about scores on standardized tests, I'm actually changing the lives of children. Purchased a modest home in a pleasant area. Nothing ostentatious. It's just a cozy 3-bedroom house with a yard, paid with cash, no mortgage. Emily and I established a scholarship fund in Mom's honor, using some of her money. Full-ride scholarships for low-income students seeking degrees in education. That would have delighted Mom. I finally made the trip to Japan that I had always desired, but had never been able to afford. 3 weeks of exploration. End of Yuli. Resumed dating. At a community gathering, I met a woman named Claire. She loves her job as a librarian, and earns about $45,000 annually. I haven't told her yet, and she doesn't know about the inheritance. Sophie's mother texted me 6 months after the divorce. To make things right, she wanted to get together for coffee. Curious about what she would say, I consented to meet her. She started right away, after ordering a complex drink. Sophie deeply regrets how things ended. She was going through a difficult time and made some poor choices. She made a lot of poor choices. I concurred. Starting with cheating on me for 8 months. She pinched her face. Yes. Well, that was regrettable. But people make mistakes. What matters is that she's learned from them. I'm sure she has. Good for her. James, you and Sophie were good together before things got complicated. Maybe if you both tried again? You mean now that I have money? She was graceful enough to appear ashamed. I mean, now that certain financial stresses aren't a factor. The financial stress wasn't ever a factor for me. I was happy with my teaching salary. Sophie and your family were the ones who had a problem with it. She discussed forgiveness inside the family, and tried a few more topics. I listened courteously, and declined everything. At last, she became irate. You're being vindictive. You're punishing Sophie for making one mistake. One mistake? Let's count them. She cheated for 8 months. She insulted my career for 3 years. She walked out of the funeral. She served me papers the day after my mother died. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of behavior. Everyone deserves a second chance. I gave her 3 years of second chances. I'm done giving chances to people who don't respect me. Sophie tried one last time. She arrived after hours at my tutoring center. She knocked while I was packing. Can we talk? Really talk. No lawyers, no family, just us. I opened the door for her. I'm not here to ask for money. I know that's what you think, but I'm not. Okay. So, why are you here? To apologize. Really? Apologize? Not because I want something, but because you deserve an actual apology. I waited. I treated you terribly. You were a good husband, you were kind and patient and loving, and I repaid that by constantly criticizing you, trying to change who you fundamentally were. That was wrong. You deserved better. Yes, I did. The thing with Jason was inexcusable. I got caught up in this idea of what success looked like, and you didn't fit that picture. So, I found someone who did, but it was hollow. Sophie, I appreciate the apology, but it doesn't change anything. I know. I'm not asking for anything to change. I just wanted you to know that I see now what I had and what I threw away, not your money. You, the person you are, the teacher who cares about kids, the man who took care of his mom. She got up to go. I hope you find someone who appreciates you for who you are. I think I already have. She gave a sorrowful smile. Good. You deserve it. She turned around after making her way to the entrance. Your mom was right about me, wasn't she? She saw through everything from day one. Mom was good at reading people. Tell her I'm sorry, too, even though she's not here to hear it. I think she knows. Sophie departed. I didn't see her again after that. I've heard that in order to start over, she eventually relocated to a different city. Life is nice for me. Excellent. I live in my own home, teach on my own terms, and date a woman who loves me for who I am. My husband was fucking my sister. For 8 years. I caught them rehearsing a fake marriage at his school reunion. And I had a plan to expose him. Ethan, my husband, dropped bombs like he wanted salt delivered. I made pasta for dinner after a 10-hour day at the firm, because Ethan stated he was too weary to cook after being home since 3. I kept munching because I thought I misheard him say. So, my 8-year reunion is next month, and I need Sophia to come with me. I was twisting spaghetti on my fork. Sophia, my younger sister, was beautiful than me, 12 pounds slimmer, and purposefully unemployed for 3 years on my dime. Paid her rent. Paid her car insurance. I paid for her 6-week highlights because dark roots made her feel insecure. I didn't know where I was paying for her to attend my husband's high school reunion. After swallowing my noodles, I asked, "Why would Sophia be coming to your reunion?" Ethan didn't look up from his phone. "Because I need her there," he said, explaining everything. I put my fork down and waited for him to expand because this sentence certainly had more to it. It wasn't. He scrolled through any app he liked more than me. "Ben," I murmured. And he looked up with the face he often had when I was ready to bother him with questions. "Why do you need my sister at your high school reunion instead of your wife?" He sighed like I was exhausting. Like I said something insane over pasta. "Because I told everyone I married her," stated. Back when we first started dating, my buddies met her once at that barbecue and they assumed she was my girlfriend. I never corrected them. I watched him. I kept watching him. I anticipated his laughter and joking. Where this became a bizarre joke I didn't like, but could call humorous. The part never came. "You told your friends you married my sister." I said gently to be sure I understood him. "It's not a big deal," he remarked, picking up his fork like we were done. It was easier than explaining. "And honestly, babe, you know how those guys are. They're shallow. They remember Sophia being hot, and they've spent 8 years thinking I locked that down. I can't show up with someone different and explain that actually I married the other one. The other one. I was law school's top student. I partnered at 33. The house, automobiles in our driveway, and all Ben's furniture were mine. And I was another. Because I did, I kept my voice steady despite feeling cold in my chest. Stayed calm. I was fair. Made no scenes. So, your solution, I add, is to bring my sister as your fake wife to a reunion full of people I'll never meet, and I'm supposed to just be okay with that? Ben took my hand across the table, consoling me in my bewilderment. He said, "It's one night." Squeezing my fingers. "Nobody will ever know. These people don't matter. I'll make it up to you. I promise. We'll do a nice dinner after. Just us. Whatever restaurant you want." His blue eyes used to make my stomach flip. I realized what should have been clear years ago. He believed I was dumb. He assumed I'd do anything for a great supper since I was desperate to please him. Worse, he was probably right. From the moment we met, he taught me to accept less. "I don't know, Ben," I answered, watching his face go from charm to displeasure in barely a second. "It just feels weird. Why can't you just tell them the truth?" Pulling back his hand. "Because I've been lying for 8 years. Carissa, what am I supposed to say now? Hey guys. Funny story. I actually married her boring older sister who works all the time." That's humiliating. Boring, older, works all the time. Each statement hit me like a small punch in the chest, yet I never reacted. I just accepted it and went going. I played that role in this marriage. Provider. Absorber. Other. Ethan added. Sophia already said yes. She's excited about it. She said it sounds fun. I blinked. "You already asked her before asking me?" Shrugging. I needed to make sure she was available first. Logistics. My sister volunteered to play my husband's wife. I gave everything to my sister, who I'd financially supported for 3 years, and called me crying every month about how hard her life was. Big sisters did that. She agreed without phoning me. Ethan must have noticed something in my face because he melted into his usual false concern. "Babe, don't be upset. Sophia said you should be flattered that she's willing to help. She's doing this for us. For you really. So I can network and maybe finally land something better than that cashier job you're always complaining about." I didn't criticize his cashier job. I was upset that he'd quit 4 cashier positions in 3 years, because his superiors didn't appreciate him. I was frustrated about funding his life while he decided what to be when he was 34. However, I became unsupportive. I blamed myself for everything, Ethan stated again one night, observing me carefully to determine how much more he needed to press. Nobody gets hurt and then we never talk about it again. Okay. I nodded. I let Sophia play Ethan's wife at his reunion for one night. I convinced myself it was innocuous, simply an awkward lie he needed help covering. However, Sophia's rapid yes kept bothering me. How she knew the date before me. Ethan did not appear uncomfortable asking his wife to step aside for her sister. I opted not to watch from the sidelines. I was going to observe their rehearsals, while the wife they were replacing was present. To see their features without the wife they were supposed to have. I helped them rehearse. Entering the room, offered to participate. I wanted to see them wiggle. I wanted Sophia to appear guilty. Ethan to stutter. And them to realize how crazy this was. I arrived home early from work the next day to find them discussing their story in my living room. They hardly looked up when I said, "I figured I could help give you feedback on what looks believable." Ethan said, "Sure, babe," and resumed Sophia's conversation. I took the chair across from them and waited for the discomfort. It never did. They kept acting like I was part of the furniture in the house I paid for with my money while they contributed nothing. "Okay, so when they ask how we met," Ethan said, leaning forward Sophia with bent elbows, "I'll say I saw you across the room at a mutual friend's birthday party, and I knew right then I had to talk to you." My entire body stiffened. Ethan and I met that way. He approached me by the window, and said I looked like I was planning my escape. I laughed and we talked for 3 hours before he asked for my phone. "Wait," I said. And they looked at me like I disrupted something essential. "That's our story. That's how you and I actually met the night that started our entire relationship." Ethan shrugged. "Exactly. I already know it by heart, so I won't mess up the details. Makes it easier. You want to use the story of how you met your wife to pretend you married someone else? You don't see anything wrong with that?" "Not really. It's practical." I faced Sophia. "And you're okay with this? Pretending you had the night that I actually had? The night I've told you about a dozen times because I thought my sister would care about the most important moment of my life." Sophia studied her nails. "I mean, it's not like you own a story, Carissa. Things happen to lots of people the same way. It's not that deep. Now we're borrowing it for one night from your brother-in-law. Who did it to me, get it back." She called me stingy with a sweater. Ethan returned to Sophia as if the conversation ended. "On the day after the party, I texted you and asked if you wanted coffee. You agreed, but I made you wait 3 days before we went." Sophie smiled at him like this was a good memory. I didn't want to appear eager. "Yes, I did that. My roommate said 3 days was the minimum for not looking desperate, so I had him wait." Sophia heard this story years before, late at night, when I felt I was sharing something valuable with my little sister. She was now reciting it to my husband like her own. "I told you that story in confidence. I told Sophia when we were close, and I thought you cared about my life." Ben sighs loudly and faces me. "This is about how you're so used to being the boss at work that you can't let anyone get anything without Carissa's approval. Carissa must approve everything. We can't even talk without you managing everything. This isn't about control. This is about you giving away my memories." "See, there you go again. Memories, story, life." He shrugged. "Not everything you saw belonged to you. I was too." Sophia nodded. "He has a point. You can't copyright a relationship." I changed tactics. "Okay. Well, what about the proposal? What are you going to say when people ask about that?" "Rooftop restaurant downtown," Ethan stated confidently. "I had the ring hidden in my jacket pocket all night and I was so nervous I could barely eat. Then, after dessert, I got down on one knee and the whole restaurant clapped. My engagement, my proposal, the happiest night of my life reduced to a script for my sister to memorize. That's literally what you did for me," I murmured, voice cracking in a way I loathed. "That's my proposal." I cried. "You cried?" "The waiter brought us free champagne. I called my mom from the restaurant because I couldn't wait to tell her. That memory is mine. Ben. Ours. How can you just hand it to someone else?" Ethan's face turned horrible. "Carissa, you've always envied Sophia since you were youngsters. She got more attention and dates. My sister got more of everything, and you've never recovered. This isn't about the reunion. This is about you still competing with her after 30 years. I'm not competing with anyone. I'm asking why my husband is teaching my sister how to be me. Because she's willing to help without making it a federal case. He softened toward Sophia. Sophia supported him by grasping his arm, unlike others. It's okay. She doesn't get it. You think this is easy for me? Ben shouted, feeling offended. I must lie to these folks all night and pretend my life turned out differently. Let's talk about Carissa's sentiments like we always do, how hard this is for you. I watched him. You lied for 8 years, and I'm trying to rectify it without destroying my social network, but you can't give me one night. You can't give me one night without making it strange after everything I do here. 1. What exactly do you do around here? Hung there. Ben's jaw hardened, but Sophia intervened. You return home from a difficult work to emotional support from him. While you work, he maintains the house. She listed his accomplishments like a job interview. Not everything is about money, Carissa. I looked at the house I bought, the furniture I bought, and the monthly power, water, and internet bills. Ethan had no consistent work for 3 years. Last time he handled the house, he forgot to pay the water bill and got a shut-off notice. I told Mom about this, Sophia said nonchalantly. She said you'd probably overreact. She thinks it's actually kind of sweet that Ethan cared enough about his friend's opinions to keep up the story this long. You talked to our mother about this before I even knew it was happening. I needed advice. She gets it. I don't know why you can't. Ethan quickly seized on this. See, your own mother understands. Your own sister is willing to help. The only person with a problem is you. Paused, he tilted his head. What does that tell you? I had no answer or too many, and none were right, Sophia remarked. Let's just keep practicing, dismissing me. We don't have that much time left. They continued robbing me in broad sight, as if I had given them permission. Sophia learned about our first anniversary, our coast trip, and my lunch surprise at work from Ethan. Everything that happened to me I thought we owned all moments. I attempted to remind you that our anniversary restaurant was French, not Italian. Ben interrupted me. Macket, Iras. He shouted. Oh, here we go. In a vicious copy of mine. Actually, Ben. That's not exactly right. Actually, Ben, you're telling it wrong. Actually, Ben, let me correct you in front of everyone like I always do. He looked at Sophia. And they laughed at me at home. I was just helping you get the details right, I whispered. We don't need your help, Sophia said, still beaming. The situation is under control. Why don't you work? Isn't that your specialty? Let it go, I told myself. This was my sister and spouse. Simply enough, the reunion stressed them. Nothing meant anything. I was sensitive. After changing upstairs, I took 5 minutes to relax. I cleansed my face, breathed deeply, and told myself I was overreacting like everyone said. I heard Sophia laugh halfway down the stairs. Softer than usual, she laughed. Private. What I saw through the railing on the landing chilled me to the core. Ethan touched Sophia's face. His fingertip traced her cheekbone as she leaned in with her eyes half closed, their faces inches away. Kissing was imminent. My hubby and sister in my living room. I must have made a sound because they split like a gunshot. Sophia turned red, and Ethan raised his hands as they began conversing. Not what it looks like, Ethan said. Sophia. We were rehearsing. In case anyone asks about us being affectionate. I stood on the stairs looking down at them, and they looked back up with matching panic. Trying very hard to become innocents. Right. I answered softly. Rehearsal. Ethan relented. Rehearsal. Ethan relented. Exactly. We got carried away practicing. It didn't mean anything. Sophia nodded swiftly. The couple must look real. It was nothing else. They observed me as I sat in my chair downstairs, waiting to see what I would do. I did nothing. I let them think I bought it because I needed time to figure out what was occurring before saying something I couldn't take back. I wasn't overreacting anymore. Something was seriously wrong, and I wouldn't sleep on it. I wouldn't let them practice their stories or excuses. Ben first. During the terror. Sophia alone. Without him to feed her lines. If neither of them cracked, I'd find someone who'd seen what I missed. Someone owing him nothing. Someone who shouldn't protect him. Tonight, the truth would emerge. Sophia left an hour later, and I followed Ethan upstairs silently. He brushed his teeth in the restroom as if nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just seen him almost kiss my sister. Like this was any other night in our marriage. When he came out, I went to the bedroom door. Move, he said. No. He looked at me like I spoke another language. In 8 years of marriage, I never blocked a door. I'd never blocked him. I've always been reasonably accommodating, and easy to navigate. Carissa, I'm tired. Move. You're not sleeping until you tell me what's going on with you and Sophia. He laughed without humor. We already explained that it was rehearsal. You said you understood. I lied and don't understand why my hubby touched my sister's face. I don't understand why she was leaning into him like she'd done it 100 times, or why you two seemed more comfortable together than you have with me in years. As Ethan tried to go around me, I followed. Jaw tightened. You're being crazy right now. You know that, right? You're acting like a crazy person. Then explain it to me so I stop being crazy. Tell me one thing that makes sense. Already told. We practiced couple likeness. It was nothing else. Why did you jump apart like I caught you doing something wrong? If that was practice, you'd chuckle. You wouldn't have worried. He raised his hands. Want me to say what? That I'm sleeping with your sister? Should you hear that to justify your meltdown? Are you? The question lingered. Should you hear that to justify your meltdown? Ben and I stared at each other for 3 seconds without breathing. He whispered, I can't believe you'd even ask me that. I appeared to have hurt him. After all these years together, after everything we've built, you're going to stand there and accuse me of sleeping with Sophia because we got a little too into character during a rehearsal. He shouted. You didn't answer the question, because the question is insane. I didn't flinch. No, Carissa. No, I'm not sleeping with your sister. Happy? Can I go to bed now? He tried to pass me, so I grabbed his arm. He stopped moving and glanced down at my hand as my fingers drove into his bicep, horrified that I was touching him without consent. Let go of me. Not until you look me in the eyes and tell me there's nothing between you two. He pulled his arm free, changing his face. One lip twisted and his eyes became frigid. He gazed at me like a shoe sticker. You want to know what there is between us? Relief. That's what. Relief that I get to spend time with someone who doesn't interrogate me every time I breathe. Relief that I get to be around a woman who actually makes me feel good instead of making me feel like a failure every single day. I have never called you a failure. No need. It's in everything you do, from sighing when you pay the bills to mentioning your job every 5 minutes. You treat me like a problem you're too exhausted to fix. His voice fell as he approached. Sophia doesn't look at me like that. Sophia thinks I'm worth something. Sophia doesn't pay your bills. See, there it is. Everything comes back to money with you. You can't even have a conversation without reminding me that you're the one with the checkbook. I'm reminding you that I'm the one with the checkbook because you seem to have forgotten who funds your life while you spend your days rehearsing romance with my sister. Ethan's jaw was thin and rigid, and his nostrils flared. You know what? I'm done. If you can't trust me after 8 years, then maybe we shouldn't be married anymore. His words hit the mark. A risk. Weapon. He knew I avoided nuclear throughout my entire marriage. Is that your goal? Divorce? I want a wife who doesn't treat me like a suspect. If you can't be that, then yeah, maybe divorce is exactly what I want. His thrust past me was allowed this time. He took a pillow and blanket from the closet, and left without looking back. I heard him descend and throw himself on the couch, creaking. He heard the TV switch on because he needed a screen every 5 minutes, even during a battle. Standing at our bedroom doorway, I recognized something crucial. It wasn't denied. He shouted. He deflected. He threatened divorce. He never looked me in the eyes, and said he was alone with Sophia. Being there prevented him. My keys and handbag were in my hand, and I left the front door without notifying him. Not asked. Not even looking up from the TV. Sophia's flat stood 20 minutes away. The trip was familiar to me because I'd been there dozens of times with supplies when she complained she couldn't afford meals. She moved in with furniture because her house looked too empty, and a security deposit check because she'd spent all her savings on a trip to Cabo with friends. Calling me crying 3 years ago, she said she was going homeless. I co-signed her lease. Covered her security deposit. I set up automatic rent transfers because she felt money stressed her greatly. 2 years, $18,000. Plus auto insurance, phone bill, and occasional checks when she was struggling. I added it once and stopped, since it made me nauseous. She slept with my spouse while I funded her life. She spent an hour with Ben at my house for every hour I worked to pay her debts. First, I parked in front of her building and then took 2 stairs. I wasn't concerned about almost 11 p.m. I hammered on her door loud enough that her neighbor opened theirs to investigate. Sophia. Open the door now. I heard movement inside. Footsteps. Her frightened, loud voice followed. Carissa, what are you doing here? Open the door, or I'll keep knocking until someone calls the cops. The latch clicked, and the door opened. Sophia's pale, terrified face loomed in the gap. It's late. Can we talk tomorrow? No. I pushed the door hard, and she stumbled backward inside the flat I funded. We're talking right now. You can't just barge in here. I pay your rent. I can do whatever I want. I inspected the furniture I helped her choose. The Christmas TV I purchased her. She probably texted my spouse on the couch while I worked to pay for it. How long? Sophia hugged herself. How long? What? Don't play dumb with me. How long have you been sleeping with Ben? I'm not sleeping with Ben. I told you it was just rehearsal. Why won't you believe me? Your face when he touched you seemed natural. That wasn't acting, Sophia. It was muscle memory. You did that so often your body performed it automatically. You're imagining things. Am I? Then explain why you know so much about my husband. Explain why you two have inside jokes I've never heard. Explain why he defends you more than he's ever defended me. Sophia looked for her phone on the counter for backup. She wants Ben to tell her what to say. He's not coming to save you, said I. I left him on the couch. It's just you and me. Sister to sister. Tell me the truth. There's nothing to tell. Fine, then tell me. I approached and saw her retreat. What's the birthmark on his left hip shaped like? Sophia turned pale. When she neglected to lie, I saw the answer in her eyes before she covered it up. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes. You do. You know exactly what I'm talking about because you've seen it. You've touched it. You've been close enough to my husband's body to know things only his wife should know. He showed me a photo once. It was a joke. Ben has never taken a photo of that birthmark in his life. He's self-conscious about it. He barely lets me see it. I laughed, and even I thought it was crazy. But you know what it looks like because you've been in bed with him. How long, Sophia? How long have you been sleeping with my husband in the apartment I pay for? She didn't reply. Just standing there with her arms about herself, tears were forming. She had used the same tears to escape trouble 100 times. She performed the same way when we were youngsters. I'm done, I said. You may have my husband, your rent, vehicle insurance, and everything else stops today. But you'll do it without my money. Carissa, wait. You can't just cut me off. I don't have anywhere to go. Should have thought about that before you decided to destroy my marriage. I left and slammed the door. I could barely grip my keys because my hands were shaking. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, inhaling, processing what I'd confirmed. In my house, on my money, behind my back. My husband and sister expected me to stay home while they played happy couple at his reunion. I got the idea then. My sister was Ethan's planned fake wife. Fine. Alex, his brother who'd done everything right while Ethan floated on charisma and other people's money, would be my date. Alex founded his firm aged 25. Totally owned his house. Ethan rejected his 3 job offers since he couldn't work for his brother. Actually, Ethan couldn't tolerate being around someone who made him look horrible just by existing. They spoke less. Alex only attended Christmas and Thanksgiving. I decided to do this because he was always kind at family functions. I'd go into that reunion on Alex's arm, and watch Ethan's face as he saw his wife with the one person he could never match. I found Alex's number on my phone. We exchanged numbers years ago but never texted. After staring at the screen, I typed, "Hi Alex. This is Carissa. I know this is random, but I need a favor. A big one. Can we meet tomorrow? Please don't tell Ben I reached out." I pressed submit before I could stop myself. A minute, then 2. I heard my phone buzz before starting the car. "Is everything okay?" I typed. "No. That's why I need your help." 3 dots appeared. He replied to meet for coffee tomorrow morning. Alex met me at the coffee shop the next morning, and listened without interruption. After I finished, he didn't call me crazy. He didn't defend his brother. I was asked what I needed. I needed something simple. Ben made me feel invisible for 8 years. He sneaked around with my sister for months while I paid for their life. I would make him feel what I felt. Unable to find solutions, he was paranoid and envious. Alex was glad to help. Ben entered the bathroom doorway the next morning as I applied mascara. "You're up early." He gazed at my fine blouse and old jewelry. "Where are you going?" Coffee with Alex. Bang! His entire body stiffened. Alex alone made Ethan feel worthless. Ethan always lost when their parents compared them for 30 years. Alex founded a firm as Ethan struggled as a cashier. Ethan resided in my house while Alex owned his. He despised his brother since childhood because every family dinner reminded him he was the disappointment. Cancel it. Application of mascara continued. No, I wasn't asking. He disappeared into the restroom and took my phone from the counter. What's his number? I'll cancel it myself. Give me my phone, Ben. Or what? He raised it at his head, like we were kids fighting over toys. What are you going to do? I gazed at him, dropping my mascara. Really? Asked him. I gave him 8 years. He threw a tantrum when I tried to have coffee. I'm going to walk out of this house. I'm going to meet your brother. And when I get back, you're going to give me my phone and apologize for acting like a child. Grabbed my keys from the counter. Keep the phone. I'll get a new one. He lowered his arm. Carissa, wait. Not waiting. Alex was already at the cafe when I arrived. He stood when he saw me and hugged me too long. He smelt expensive and clean, unlike Ben's awful cologne that had bothered me for a decade. You okay? He inquired as we sat. You look upset. Your brother took my phone hostage because I wanted to have coffee with you. Alex's jaw constricted. That sounds like him, does it? Because for 8 years, I thought I was married to a reasonable person. Turns out I was married to a toddler who throws fits when he doesn't get his way. He's always been like that. He just hides it well at first. Alex moved a coffee across the table. I ordered your usual. Hope that's okay. How do you know my usual? You've ordered the same thing at every family gathering for 5 years. Vanilla latte, extra shot, oat milk? Shrugging. I pay attention. Something broke in my chest. Ethan didn't know my coffee order. He asked me every time after 8 years of marriage. Like the information wouldn't stick. I told Alex all. The proposal story, the almost kiss on the couch, the birthmark slip, and Ethan concealing his affair with my sister for months. When I finished, my coffee was cold and my voice hoarse. I want him to feel what I felt, I add. Paranoid, jealous, going crazy, wondering what's happening, how I need you around. Pick me up for dinners. Text me when he's watching. Make him wonder. Alex remained silent as his thumb stroked circles on my hand. I'm in, he said. Whatever you need. Ethan was sitting in the dark living room like a horror movie villain when I got home 3 hours later. 3 hours. Flat voice. You were gone 3 hours. We had a lot to talk about. About what? About me? About how terrible I am? Not everything is about you, Ben. I extended my hand. Phone. It came out of his pocket and was thrown at me. Actually threw. I caught it on my chest. There's your precious phone. Check your messages. I'm sure Alex has been texting you non-stop like the desperate loser he is. The only desperate person in this room is you. I walked past him to the stairs. I'm taking a shower. Try not to have a meltdown while I'm gone. First supper with Alex was Friday. Ethan claimed my black outfit was too much for Tuesday. Had my hair done the way I did before giving up. When I got downstairs, Ethan stood up so fast his chair tumbled over. No. Absolutely not. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. You're not leaving this house dressed like that to meet my brother. Watch me. Strongly grasped my arm. I expected bruises tomorrow from the hardness. I said no. Yes. Let go of me. Make me. I saw his face after seeing his hand on my arm. So I screamed. One severe scream that resonated through the house, and perhaps reached the neighbors. He released instantaneously. What the hell is wrong with you? Nothing. I just wanted to see how fast you'd release me if you thought someone might hear. Smoothed my dress. Now you know. And now I know exactly how to handle you. Alex's headlights illuminated the window. I left without looking back. Amazing dinner. But not the food. That was good too. Conversation. When Alex asked about my work and listened, he knew information from years ago that Ethan never learned. He stared at me like I was worth seeing. Friday again? He inquired when he dropped me off. Friday again. Second dinner was better. We closed the restaurant and spoke about nothing. He kissed my cheek as he walked me out, and I felt it for hours. The third dinner changed everything. I expected Ethan to pace, sulk, or throw things when I got home at midnight. I discovered him on the couch with Sophia curled up next to him. Her shoes were removed. Her head was on his shoulder. Seeing a movie like this was commonplace. Oh, hey. Ethan ignored me. How was your date? Standing at the doorway, I tried to process what I saw. What is she doing here? Sophia? She came over to keep me company since my wife is never home anymore. Sophia finally looked at me. She seemed guilt-free. Not embarrassed. Something about that smug smile made me want to cross the room and slap it off. You don't mind? She inquired. Ethan was alone. Since you run off with Alex, someone should be here for him. Get out of my house. Excuse me? You heard me. Get out. Sophia laughed. You can't kick me out. This is Ethan's house. 2. No, it isn't. His name isn't on the deed. His name isn't on the mortgage. His name isn't on anything, because he hasn't worked in 3 years. I dropped my handbag on the table. So, I'll say it again. Get out of my house. Finally, Ben stood. Don't talk to her like that. Like what? Like she's the woman sleeping with my husband. Maybe too. Nobody's sleeping with anybody. His presence between Sophia and me seemed protective. We're friends, that's all. Just like you and Alex are friends, right? Hypocrisy was thick enough to taste. You're seriously doing this right now? After everything you said about Alex, grabbing me, screaming at me, and calling me desperate, it was different. How? Explain to me how this is different. Because I'm not trying to hurt you. He approached. Everything I've done has been about protecting our marriage. You're the one running around with my brother trying to humiliate me. Once 2 FAR what of God Parliament. Lol. Protecting our marriage? Is that what you call rehearsing your fake wedding with my sister using our proposal story for her? Almost kissing her on our couch. Sophia got up from the couch. That's not what happened. Really? Because I watched it happen, Sophia. I stood in that hallway, and watched him lean into you, like you were a magnet, and he couldn't help himself. You're dramatic. It was practice. Practice for what? Last I looked. Couples only almost kiss during rehearsal if they want to. If you paid more attention to your husband, he might not need to practice with others. The words lingered. Sophia had steely eyes. No sisterly affection. Not guilty. She felt frigid satisfaction at finally saying what she was thinking. There it is. I nodded slowly. That's what you really think, isn't it? That this is my fault. That I drove him to you. I didn't say that. You just did. Ben touched Sophia's arm. Protective, gentle. He touched me before he stopped pretending I mattered. You are Castavan. Carissa, you need to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. You invited my sister into our home to make me jealous, and now you're standing there holding her arm like she's the victim. Looked between them. How long? How long? What? How long have you two been sleeping together? And don't lie to me. I already know about the birthmark. Sophia grew pallid. She regarded Ben. He examined the floor. That's what I thought. I grabbed my purse off the table. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. When I wake up tomorrow. She better be gone. You can't just kick her out. Ethan. I can do whatever I want. It's my house, remember? Sophia's words stopped me from climbing the stairs. You think you're so much better than everyone, don't you? She rumbled. I couldn't name the prosperous attorney with the big mansion and fancy career. You've always looked down on me. Always treated me like I was less than you. I turned slowly. I paid your rent for 3 years, Sophia. I paid your car insurance, your phone bill. I gave you $2,500 last Christmas because you said you were struggling. I approached. And the whole time you were sleeping with my husband and laughing at me behind my back. I wasn't laughing. Then what were you doing? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you took everything I gave you, and used it to steal my life. I didn't steal anything. You were never going to lose him. Cracked voice. He was always going to stay with you. The money, the house, the stability. That's what he wants. I was just the one he actually loved. Confession hit me like a truck. It wasn't painful. Eventually, I stopped caring if Ben loved me. I wanted him to pay for his actions. Loved. I repeated to her. Past tense. Sophia blinks. What? You said loved, not loves. Loved. I regarded Ben. Is that true? Did you love her? He opened, closed, and reopened his mouth. Nothing surfaced. Sophia said Ben. Softly. Tell her. I don't know what you want me to say. Tell her you love me. Tell her I'm not just some mistake. Tell her what you told me when we were alone. Ben stroked his hair. The frightened motion he made when cornered. Sophia, this isn't the time. Then when is the time? She already knows. Everyone already knows. Sophia grabbed his arm. Tell her. Withdrew from her. Actual retreat. I need some air. Sophia stood in my living room, crying after he left via the back door and into the yard. He loves me, she muttered. He told me he loves me. Men say a lot of things, Sophia. Especially when they want something. She crumbled before me. He watched her realize she would never be his wife, that she had sacrificed her sister for a man who couldn't declare he loved her. How does it feel to realize you were just the other woman this whole time? That's not what I was. That's exactly what you were. The exciting secret, the forbidden fruit. The reason he could tolerate being married to me. Grabbed my purse. But secrets don't stay secrets forever. And now he has to choose. Do you really think he's going to pick you over everything I provide? Sophia didn't reply. She stood crying as I went upstairs to the guest room. I texted Alex on my phone. She was here when I got home, curled up with him on the couch like she belonged there. Response time was seconds. Are you okay? Better than okay. He just showed me exactly who he is. And she just realized she was never going to win. What happened? She told me he loved her. He couldn't even say it back. Just walked out of the room. And left her standing there crying. He's a coward. He's worse than a coward. He's a man who doesn't know what he wants, and destroys everyone around him trying to figure it out. Dinner tomorrow. I grinned at my phone in the dark guest room. I heard Sophia's car starting in the driveway, Ben's footsteps on the back porch, and his muted call as she drove away. Pick me up at 7, I said. And Alex, thank you for being the one good thing in all of this. Always. Ben appealed to Sophia within 48 hours. I heard him on the phone promising her everything would change, and that the reunion would show how much he cared. He thought I didn't know they'd fix things. He assumed I didn't see her car 2 streets away when she crept in from the rear. He believed he was brilliant. They both did. Tomorrow night was reunion. They planned, practiced, and dressed alike. They didn't know I had a strategy. My fire would destroy theirs. 2 days later, Ben's voice came from the backyard as I folded laundry. From the window, I observed him walk by the fence with his phone in his ear. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But Sophia. Please. The reunion is in 5 days, and I need you there. Pause. Because you're the only one who understands. Because I love you. To express it to her was too scary. It existed. The confession he couldn't make when she cried in our living room. He saved it for the call he thought nobody was listening to. Friday night, I'll pick you up at 6. Wear the green dress we picked out. Pause. Then softer. I promise this time will be different. After the reunion, everything changes. You'll see. I left the window before he could look up after he hung up. My hands stopped shaking. They hadn't shook in weeks. Since crying that night, something hardened inside me. Cold, patient, ready. Got my phone and texted Alex. They're back together. He just told her he loves her. Response time was seconds. Are you okay? I'm perfect. The reunion is Friday. Pick me up at 7. What's the plan? Smiled at my phone. You'll see. Friday came fast. I prepped all afternoon. Ethan claimed the salon's hair was too pricey. He thought red nails were too striking. I had professional makeup tonight since I wasn't just showing up. Making an entrance. New dress. Black cut low and high to turn heads and keep sophisticated. I used the credit card Ethan didn't know about. The one I opened when I first suspected something was awry. Alex brought me up at 7 precisely. Perfect hair. Charcoal suit. The kind of man who made other men feel small by being near them. When I opened the door, he cautiously inspected me. You look incredible. I know. Ready to crash a party, I took my purse from the table. The downtown hotel hosted the gathering. Valet parking. Chandeliers. Silver trays of champagne. Through the windows, I saw the crowd. Ben's old friends dressed nicely to prove the last 8 years were kind. Alex inquired. You sure about this? As he gave the valet his keys. I've never been more sure of anything. We entered with his hand on my back and my chin up. The room was full with strangers relating stories about a different husband, a confident, popular guy with everything straightened out. He married Sophia, and lived happily ever after. I saw them before they saw me. The anniversary suit I purchased Ben, Sophia in their practiced green dress. She laughed at something one of his pals said while holding his arm. They practiced being the perfect wife in my living room. Then Ben looked up. His face showed 5 emotions in 2 seconds. Confusion. Recognition. Terror. Panic. And finally dread when he saw who was next to me. His voice faltered at Carissa. "Hey honey." The room saw my big smile. Surprised? People around them quieted. People looked. Fire-like whispers spread through dry grass. "What are you doing here?" Ben whispered. "I'm meeting my husband's old friends." "Isn't that what wives do at reunions?" I regarded Sophia. "Oh. I'm sorry. Did I interrupt something?" Sophia looked pallid. She stared at Alex like a ghost. "Who's this?" Ben's friend spoke up. Big guy with a welcoming smile, unaware of the bombing. "I'm Carissa." I offered my hand. "Ethan's spouse. Real wife. He's married for 8 years." A friend's smile faltered. "I thought Sophia was his wife." "That's funny because Sophia is my sister, and she's been sleeping with my husband for the past year while I paid her rent." Whispers became gasps. Ethan tried to drag me away from the crowd with his arm. "Carissa, stop. You're embarrassing yourself." "No," I released my arm. "I'm embarrassing you." "There's a difference." Another acquaintance asked. "Who's he?" "Alex." "Why is he here?" "This is Alex. Ethan's sibling, the prosperous one your friend has been jealous of since childhood." I regarded Ethan. "Should I tell them why you hate him so much? Or should I let them figure it out?" "Carissa, please." Ethan pleaded. "Can we talk about this somewhere private?" "Private? You've been lying to these people for 8 years. You told them you married the prettier sister. You told them Sophia was your wife. You used our proposal story for her." I faced the crowd. "Does anyone here want to see pictures from our actual wedding?" "Because I have them on my phone." Hands raised. A gathering gathered. A photo after another appeared. My white outfit. Me and Ethan at the altar. Sophia as a bridesmaid saw me cut the cake. "That's Sophia." I pointed at screen. "The woman he's been parading around tonight, as his wife, my sister, my maid of honor, the woman I trusted more than anyone in the world." Sophia finally spoke. "Carissa. This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" "Because it looks like you're wearing the dress you rehearsed in my living room. It looks like you're holding my husband's arm. It looks like you came here tonight planning to pretend you were me." I approached her. "How does it feel, Sophia, to finally get what you wanted and have it blow up in your face?" "I never wanted to hurt you." "Then what did you want?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you wanted my husband. My life. My proposal story. Everything that was mine." "He told me you didn't appreciate him. He told me your marriage was over. He told me you were just staying together for convenience." "And you believed him?" A laugh. "The man who can't hold a job. The man who lives in my house and drives my car and hasn't paid a bill in 3 years. That's the man you trusted to tell you the truth about our marriage." Sophia watched Ethan, waiting for him to protect her, say anything, or act. Ethan didn't. Her voice was weak. Tell them what you told me, Sophia." His hand stroked his hair. Nervous gesture. "Cowards tell. I think we should all just calm down." "Calm down?" Sophia asked. "You told me you loved me and that the reunion would alter everything. You promised we'd be together." The crowd devoured this. Cell phones were out. Recorders were present. Everyone watched Ethan's meticulously built falsehood crumble in real time. "Is that true?" The huge pleasant guy approached again. "Ethan, you showed us images of your 8-year marriage to Sophia. You mentioned your honeymoon. I can explain." "Then explain." Crossed arms. "Explain to your friends why you've been lying to them. Explain why your actual wife is standing here with your brother, while your mistress wears the dress you picked out together. Explain why you're such a coward that you couldn't even tell the truth to people you've known since high school." Ethan opened, closed, and reopened his mouth. Nothing surfaced. Alex approached and grabbed my back. "I think we're done here." "Almost." I took the envelope from my handbag, which I were carrying all night. "One more thing." I gave Ethan it. He watched it like it would bite. "What is this?" "Open it." His hands shook as he tore the envelope, removed the papers, and read the first line. His face grayed. "Divorce papers." I grinned. "My lawyer drew them up last week. You have 30 days to respond." "Carissa, wait. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can." "No." I ended. "I don't want counseling or to work it out. I won't spend another minute with a man who said he married the prettier sister, while I paid for his every possession." I said to Sophia. I hope he was worth it because you just lost your sister. Your rent payments. your car insurance. Everything I gave you because I thought family meant something. Shaking my head. Good luck figuring out how to survive without me. Alex held my hand as we approached the entrance. The crowd parted for us. No one opposed us. No one defended Ethan. They watched him lose everything. I looked back at the door one last time. Ethan kept the divorce papers. Sophia wept. Friends stared at him as they'd never seen him. By the way, I said, I own the house, car, and everything. Take your stuff out by the end of the month. Alex and I strolled out into the cool night air. The valet turned the car. I slid into the passenger seat once Alex opened my door. How do you feel? He inquired as we left the motel. I saw the building shrink in the side mirror. I contemplated my actions. I'd just destroyed, and was preparing to rebuild everything. Free, I said. I feel free. Ethan left 3 weeks later. I watched him load boxes into a rental vehicle from my bedroom window, car in my name, not his. Unfortunately, most of his buddies stopped answering his calls following the reunion. He was alone in the driveway with the shards of a life he'd pretended to deserve for 8 years. Knocked the door before leaving. I opened, but didn't let him in. I just wanted to say goodbye. He had crimson eyes. He looked exhausted, and said, I'm sorry for everything. Okay, that's it. Just okay. What do you want me to say, Ethan? That I forgive you? That I hope you find happiness? Leaning against the doorframe. I don't. I hope you remember what you threw away forever. I hope you hear a voice reminding you that you don't deserve wonderful things every time they come your way. He recoiled like I hit him. You've changed. No, I just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not so you could feel better about yourself. I backed up and touched the door. Goodbye, Ethan. I closed it before he replied. Sophia called twice the first week. I remained silent. She left voicemails requesting to talk. If we could mend things. And if I could keep paying her rent until she worked things out. Without listening past the first few words, I deleted them. She arrived at my door a month later. I spotted her through the peephole without opening it. She left after 10 minutes of banging and screaming my name. 2 months later, a cousin told me she and Ethan tried to sort it out, shared a little flat on the worst side of town. Ethan obtained a $15 an hour warehouse job. Sophia worked at a restaurant where tips barely paid petrol. The ideal life they practiced in my living room became screaming battles about expenses and who bought groceries. They split up before signing the lease. Sophia rejoined our parents. Ethan vanished, untracked. Alex and I moved slowly. Dinners become weekends. Weekends ended in travels. I finally went to Italy. My dream trip. We ate pasta and drank wine for 2 weeks, without discussing Ethan. Alex invited me to live with him 4 months after the reconnection. I agreed without hesitation since I knew he wanted me forever. My parents abandoned me. At 12, after I spilled a soda, years later, I attended my brother's wedding and turned their day into their downfall. My name is Thomas, and I am now 30. Some memories, however, fester rather than vanish. They get sharper over time. I don't talk about my childhood very much, not because I've forgotten, but because stating it out loud makes it feel real again. I feel like I'm 12 years old again, standing in the middle of that gas station parking lot. I was clutching a candy bar that I didn't have enough money to buy, watching my parents' taillights fade into the night. It happened in August, just before school began. We'd gone on one of those weird family bonding vacations that my mother believed we needed, but bonding in our house meant everyone pretending my father's rants were wisdom, and my elder brother Tyler's every lousy thought was a gift to humanity. I was the quiet one, overly sensitive, soft-spoken, and usually in the way. On that particular day I had spilled Sprite in the back seat. Tyler, who was 16 and already an expert at deflecting blame, smirked and added, "I did it on purpose." Dad pulled over at the next petrol station off the highway, his eyes burning. "You're not a baby anymore," he exclaimed. "You want to act mature? You can find your own way home." At first I chuckled. I assumed it was one of his strange jokes, but suddenly the back of the SUV slammed shut and they simply drove. I raced after them for a second, crying out their names, but my voice cracked and vanished under the roar of motors and tires. A clerk stuck his head out of the gas station door, cigarette dangling from his lips, and looked at me as if I were just another stray who had been abandoned. That night, I slept beneath the station's garbage, cuddled up against myself, my heart beating with each passing car. I recall counting the hours. 80 miles from home, no money, no phone, no one to call. When I begged for aid, the clerk refused. "Ain't a daycare kid," he murmured. I did not cry. I believe a part of me froze that night, the portion that believed family meant anything permanent. The next morning, I found a payphone and contacted Mrs. Carter, a teacher I trusted. She was the one that picked me up and drove me back into town. I explained to her that my parents must have forgotten about me. I could see she didn't believe it because she tightened her grasp on the steering wheel. However, she did not press. She simply dropped me off, ensured I had food, and assured me I could always call her. Nobody seemed surprised as I walked through our house's front door. No one apologized. Mom looked up from her laptop and remarked, "Took you long enough." Tyler was on the couch playing video games and muttered, "Should have walked faster." Dad never addressed what had happened, simply nodding at me at breakfast the next morning as if everything was normal. That was the day I quit trying to fit in. I graduated high school like a ghost in the hall. Ate lunch alone and studied in silence. I left as soon as I reached 18, worked 3 jobs, completed community college, and then moved to a university across the nation without informing anyone. I changed my phone number, never left a forwarding address, and for the first time began breathing on my own. I've spent the last decade developing a life they don't know about. I became a software programmer and relocated to a city where no one ever repeated the words "man up," as if they were a cure for trauma. My friends describe me as grounded and loyal. I even got a rescue dog named Leo, a frightened little mutt who flinches at loud noises. We understand one another. I never expected to hear from them again, yet last week a letter arrived at my flat. There was no return address, but Mom's handwriting on the front was unmistakable, loopy and dramatic. I slowly opened it, partly anticipating a legal threat or another passive-aggressive note about leaving the family. But it was a thick envelope. Inside, Tyler's wedding invitation was embossed in gold calligraphy, all ostentatious and formal, the type of thing that screamed rented grandeur and artificial smiles, and tucked within was a folded piece of notebook paper penned by them. "Thomas, we understand that things have been far between us, but Tyler is getting married, and your presence would be greatly appreciated by the family. He requested that we contact out to you directly. We hope you will come. We would love to reconnect. Mom and Dad are reaching out as if nothing has occurred. Like they hadn't abandoned me to rot beneath a gas station dumpster when I was 12 and never apologized. Like Tyler wasn't the golden kid whose shadow I was never permitted to escape." I sat there looking at the note for a long time. My fingers clenched on the paper's edge, causing it to wrinkle, and for a brief time I considered throwing it away. Almost. But then something inside me paused. I flipped the invitation over. Fancy setting. Outdoor ceremony. Dress code. Formal. There was even a QR code for RSVPs. As if I were just another distant relative. As if they hadn't already taught me the meaning of disposability. I looked at the note again. It would mean a lot to the family. It was interesting since I wasn't the same kid they discarded on the side of the highway anymore, and if they wanted me back in the photo, I had a few ideas for framing it. Let's just say I didn't RSVP right immediately, but I did begin arranging discreetly and meticulously, as I always do, because some debts are not paid in words, but in presence. Sometimes simply turning there is the loudest thing you can do. The instant I saw Tyler's fiance's name, Sophia R. Kensington, engraved in embossed cursive on the invitation, I knew what kind of wedding it would be. Upper middle class perfection, extended games, a live quartet, and bespoke cocktail napkins with their initials. The Kensingtons were local nobility in my area. Old money, gossip and grudges. Sophia was always dressed as if she was going to church or a job interview, even at the age of 15. The kind of girl who never had to compete for attention since it was bestowed upon her like an inheritance. So Tyler got her. Of course he did. The charming eldest son, quarterback smile, parents who surrounded him like he was the sun. My parents most likely wore their approval like jewelry. I searched her up online the same night. She was everything you'd expect. A dentistry school graduate, a groomed Instagram feed full of encouraging slogans and coffee art, and engagement photos taken under a tree that looked like everything out of a wedding magazine. A link to their wedding website was concealed in one of the post's tags. I clicked it. Tyler and Sophia's big day is 3 weeks away. Location, Stonebrook Vineyard and Lodge. Registry, Bloomingdale's, Crate and Barrel, and Amazon. Dress code. Black tie is optional. Please arrive 30 minutes before the ceremony starts. Shuttle transportation is offered from the guest hotel. We are very happy to celebrate with friends and family. Family, correct? There was even a section called The Love Story. Tyler wrote it himself, or at least from his perspective. It was all so professional, it could have been written by a public relations firm. I've always been the type of man who believes in fate. But nothing prepared me for Sophia, her grace, her kindness, the way she looked at me and saw more than just the person I used to be. You've grown into a different person than you were before. I read the line 3 times. And then I remembered him as a khaki-wearing bully and a liar with a halo. The same lad who shoved me into a pond at my 12th birthday party and informed our parents that I had slipped. I had to walk home, drenched while everyone else ate cake. They'd been laughing about it for years. I wasn't planning on attending the wedding. Not until I saw that line. Tyler was rewriting his own past, believing there was no collateral damage on his way to adulthood. And now the individuals who had left me behind, literally, were calling me family again. I did not RSVP online. That would have been too easy. Instead, I asked an old college buddy, Jenny, who now works in logistics, to send me a high-end formal suit in midnight blue, custom fit, with a vest that looked like it belonged in a James Bond movie. I even reserved a room at the same premium guest hotel advertised on the website, paying up ahead and using a little different name. I didn't want them to know I was coming. Not yet. I felt if they were going to try to pretend the past did not exist, I'd give them a taste of their own medicine. 2 weeks before the wedding, I sent one email to the RSVP address supplied. It was Sophia's saying, "Looking forward to the celebration. Please don't mention I'm attending. I'd like to surprise the happy couple." There was no reply, but it was marked as read. The week before the wedding, I cleared my schedule, arranged for a sitter for my dog Leo, and packed light, just the suit, a pair of shine shoes, and one old photo, folded and weathered, of me at 12 standing outside that gas station with a rucksack and a blank stare. Mrs. Carter had removed it the morning she picked me up. She had printed it years later and mailed it to me with the simple message, "You survived." I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but it felt natural to bring it. When I arrived at the vineyard the day before the wedding, it looked like a movie set. Rolling hills, polished wooden beams, fairy lights strung through archways, wonderful weather and ideal people. Every aspect was planned to convey warmth and elegance, but in a way that excluded people like me by design. The rehearsal supper was in full swing. I watched from a quiet corner of the outdoor patio, sunglasses on, and a suit jacket draped over my arm. Nobody saw me at first, but then I saw her. Mom. She was thinner than I remembered, like a balloon that had gradually deflated but attempted to preserve its shape. Her hair was tinted a darker brown, almost reddish, and she wore a pearl necklace that contrasted with her sunburned neck. She was laughing, with that loud, brittle laugh that always sounded like she was trying to convince everyone she was okay. Dad stood beside her, wearing a blazer that most likely still had the same money clip in the inside pocket, the one he used to flick open dramatically whenever he wanted to remind us he was supplying. His face seemed puffier than I remembered, as if life had finally pushed back. They were talking to Sophia's parents, smiling, shaking hands, and praising Tyler with the same saccharine tone that used to make my skin crawl. I did not approach them. Not yet. But then Tyler turned, and for the first time in nearly 2 decades, we met eyes. And his face sank. Not enough to warn anyone else, but I noticed it. The flare, the implicit question. What is he doing here? That passed over his immaculately manicured expression. He raised a glass to me, hesitated, and then immediately looked away, as if he hadn't noticed me at all. But I knew he did. More significantly, I realized he hadn't informed them that I was on my way. I snuck out before the toast and walked back to the motel, my heart pumping with adrenaline. My hands were trembling slightly, not from fear but from anticipation. They'd asked me to come. They wanted me to rejoin the family. I was going to show them what that meant, and I hadn't even spoken yet. Mist and tension hung over the wedding morning. I stood at my hotel room's floor-length window, watching fog sweep across the wine hills like a scene out of a movie. I barely slept. Not from nerves. I wasn't nervous, but rather from recollection. My thoughts replayed everything like a silent movie. Cold pavement behind the gas station. Mrs. Carter's expression when she pulled up. When I arrived home, I found silence. I ironed my shirt carefully and painstakingly, pressing out each crease as if it were a scar that I might flatten. Then I reached for an old folded faded photograph. 12-year-old me stared into the horizon, eyes wide with a mixture of terror and disbelief. I slipped it into my breast pocket, behind a silk square near my chest. The shuttle to the vineyard was packed with strangers. Distant cousins, longtime neighbors, and Sophia's college classmates. Everyone talked on the venue, the vista, and the attire. Nobody looked my way. I preferred it that way. When I stepped off the shuttle, The surroundings had changed. White chairs spread out across the grass like dominoes. A floral arch took center stage, adorned with ivory roses and pastel greenery. Classical music filled the air, as servers carried around glasses of Prosecco as if it were liquid gold. It was really amazing. I kept to the back. I saw them again. My parents are now seated in the front row, beaming at guests and shaking hands with the officiant. Dad laughed too loudly. Mom held a bouquet of white lilies that did not fit her at all. Tyler stood off to the side in a nice tuxedo, speaking to what I believed was his best man. Sophia hadn't appeared yet. That's when it occurred. An older woman approached me, with exquisite silver hair and a navy blue clothing. She glanced at me for a moment before smiling graciously. "You must be Thomas." I blinked. "I am. I'm Evelyn Kensington, Sophia's mother." "Of course." I straightened a little and extended my hand. She took it gracefully, but also with curiosity. "Tyler told us you might be here. I just wanted to say, thank you for coming." My guard went up immediately. "He told you I might come?" She nodded, her smile growing tighter. "He said there had been some distance, but he hoped this would be a step toward healing." I could have laughed, but I did not. Instead, I said, "He's an optimist." She smiled again, but more awkwardly this time. "Well, regardless, welcome. And if you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask." I saw her go away, her heels biting slightly into the grass. Tyler had informed Sophia's side of the family but not mine. Interesting. The ceremony began like any other. Gentle music played, guests shifted in their chairs, the officiant cleared his throat, and Sophia appeared, glowing, gorgeous, and precisely as you'd imagine. The crowd's combined breath inhaled and held. She walked down the aisle to gentle applause. Tyler waited under the arch like a prince accepting his crown, while I watched from the back row, mute. The ceremony was quick, with typical vows and uneasy laughs. I do's were exchanged as currency. Then came the announcement, the kiss, and the applause. And with that, they were married. The reception was where everything started to unravel. The event was held in a big glass-walled hall that overlooked the vineyard. Chandeliers hang like frozen waterfalls. Every table had a centerpiece of orchids and floating candles. Guests were escorted to their seats using printed calligraphy cards. Mine did not exist. I calmly approached the table where my folks sat. There's an empty chair near them. The name card is designated for the family. I hovered. Mom's gaze fell on me. "Oh, you made it," she replied, sipping wine and not standing. "Apparently," I said. Dad did not speak. He glanced at me with an unreadable expression and leaned back slightly, as if I were a question he didn't want to answer. "I didn't see a seat card for me," I explained quietly. Mom shrugged. "Must have been a mistake. Maybe you're at one of the other tables. We didn't handle the seating arrangements." "Sure you didn't." I looked around. Tables were almost filled. Laughter came from all directions. And then I noticed Tyler across the floor, deep in conversation with Sophia and two older gentlemen in tuxedos. He saw me. He did not smile. Instead, he walked straight for me. "Hey," he murmured, his voice low. "Glad you could make it." "No thanks to you," I said. He exhaled. "Listen, I didn't think you'd actually come. But you invited me." "I asked Mom and Dad to invite you. That's different." My jaw clenched. "I figured you'd see the invite, toss it and move on like you always do," he told me. I truly looked at him. Tan, stylish, and confident. A man who has never fully paid for anything via blood or silence. "I came to see if you remembered," I explained quietly. "Remember what?" I didn't respond. I reached into my jacket and took out the photograph. I held it up and let it speak. His countenance changed. Subtle but real. Eyes flew to the photo, then to my face, then back. He swallowed. "That was years ago." "Yes," I answered. "And you never said a word. Never told them to turn back. Never checked if I made it home alive." He looked around in case someone overheard. "Thomas, it was one bad night. You were dramatic even then. I thought you were over it." "Over it." Something inside me stilled. "I'm not here to ruin your wedding, I told you. You can relax." He let out a brief, lifeless laugh. "Good. But I am staying until the speeches." He looked at me again, as if unsure whether I was bluffing. I wasn't, because the best retribution is not loud. It is surgical. And I had planned a toast that they would never forget. The lights in the ballroom dimmed as servers cleaned the last of the dinner plates. Guests were buzzing in a champagne haze, some leaning back with full stomachs and others dancing in nice little circles to a four-piece jazz band tucked away in the corner. Tyler and Sophia sat at a long head table, their names written in gold letters behind them. Everything shined, including the wine glasses, cutlery, and people. A man wearing a powder blue suit clinked his glass. The room became quiet. It's time for a few words from the people who know the bride and groom best. There was polite clapping, and Sophia's father went up to speak first. His voice was smooth and practiced, a combination of money and warmth. He discussed Sophia's childhood, her dreams, and the first time she addressed Tyler. He even joked about Tyler's appeal, saying, "We didn't even realize he was trying to marry up." Everyone chuckled. The best man, Tyler's college roommate, then took over, keeping things light and amusing. Something about frat parties, Tyler's inability to cook, and his good fortune in meeting Sophia. It was the type of speech you'd expect. A little heart, a little comedy, and no rough edges. The MC then took the microphone again and looked down at a list. "And finally we have a special toast from Thomas." The room became quiet. Every eye shifted. My parents froze mid-sip. Tyler's jaw stiffened. Sophia blinked in confusion, and I got up. I moved slowly to the microphone, ignoring the uneasy shifting around me. Several visitors whispered. Some people appeared puzzled. Others just looked, confused who I was or why I was speaking. I tapped the microphone once. It rang throughout the room. "Good evening," I said with a firm voice. "I'm Thomas, Tyler's younger brother." Several heads turned sharply now. The words landed like a ripple on quiet water. I could practically hear murmurs start to circulate. "Has he got a brother?" "I wasn't sure I was going to come tonight," I explained. "In fact, I spent the last few weeks thinking about whether I should. You see, I haven't spoken to my family in 18 years. Silence. Not the good kind. The kind that sucks the air out of the room. I got a wedding invitation out of nowhere. No call, no email, just a card and a note that said, 'It would mean a lot to the family if you came.'" I let the words rest before pulling the photo from my pocket. This is me at 12 years old. I held it up with 2 fingers. The guests craned their necks to see. This was taken the morning after my parents left me at a gas station, 80 miles from home. I had spilled a soda in the car, and instead of scolding me, they left, told me to man up and figure it out. The crowd changed. Uneasy glances. The sound of a wine glass being gently placed. They didn't come back. They didn't call. I slept behind a dumpster. The only reason I made it home was because a teacher picked me up the next day. I never got an apology. Not from my parents. Not from Tyler. And until this wedding invitation arrived, I thought they were all perfectly happy pretending I didn't exist. I looked at my parents. Dad's face was paler. Mom's lips hung slightly open, as if she was attempting to elicit a response but couldn't find one quickly. "Now, I'm not here to ruin anyone's evening," I assured them. "Sophia, you seem lovely. Your family has been kind and welcoming. And Tyler, well, you've always known how to put on a good face." That line landed hard. His expression shattered for a brief period. But I think weddings are about honesty. About truth. And it wouldn't be honest if I stood here tonight pretending that we were ever close, or that I grew up in a house where family meant protection, not survival. The room was completely silent now. People were barely breathing. I was invited to this wedding to take part in a picture-perfect day. A prop. A brother-shaped placeholder. I turned back to Tyler. "So, consider this my gift to you." I placed the photograph on the head table directly in front of him. A reminder of what it's like to lose touch with relatives. Then I slowly turned and walked away from the microphone. No applause, only startled stillness and a few loud gasps. As I walked by my parents' table, I heard my mother hiss my name, barely audible. My father began to rise, but I did not stop. I did not glance back. I left through the side of the hall and stepped out into the chilly night. The music is now distant behind me. I was not angry. I was not shaking. I was free. But freedom is a funny concept. It doesn't always provide serenity immediately away. Sometimes it just leaves a silence, the kind that makes you wonder what will happen next. I'd made my move, but the consequences were still coming. The journey back to the motel was silent. There's no jazz band, no clinking drinks, and no theatrical laughing ringing off the marble walls. Only the sound of tires on gravel and the faint whir of my thoughts caught up with me. I did not return to my room right away. Instead, I took a walk down one of the vineyard trails behind the hotel, which wound through rows of dark grapevines beneath a starry sky. With each step away from that wedding hall, the tension in my chest dissipated thread by thread. I could still hear my mother's piercing gasp, see Tyler's beautifully arranged face crumble in real time, and feel the puzzled looks of passers-by attempting to link the piece of family that had been purposefully removed from the photograph. For the majority of my life, I thought I was the ghost in my own family. But tonight, I reminded them that I had flesh, blood and memories. And memory is a hazardous thing, especially when those around you depend on forgetting. I returned to the hotel to find a voicemail from an unknown number. "Thomas, it's Sophia." Her voice was low and calm, yet brittle. I am not sure what I expected, but I did not expect that. "I wish someone had told me. I just wanted you to know I'm not mad you said what you did. You deserve to, and I'm sorry." She hung up without leaving me a number to call back. That was the first apology I had received in 18 years. And it didn't even come from my family. I departed early the next morning. No breakfast, no long goodbyes, just a quick email to the front desk asking them to cancel the remainder of my reservation and send me the final cost. I didn't want to wait around for the aftermath. I knew my parents. I knew Tyler. They'd either pretend nothing happened or try to spin it as a misunderstanding. Perhaps both. But I knew the photograph was still on the head table when I departed. I kept the outfit, dumped the tie, and went home. And once I arrived home, truly home, in my modest apartment, where Leo greeted me with enthusiastic barks and a wagging tail, something unusual occurred. People began reaching out. First, it was my cousin Rachel. She contacted me on LinkedIn. She claimed she had heard about the speech from someone at the wedding and wanted to apologize for never inquiring where I went after I disappeared. Said she always felt it was strange that no one ever mentioned me again, but assumed it wasn't her place to inquire. We spoke for a while. She inquired whether she may pay a visit. I didn't say yes, nor did I say no. Mrs. Carter responded with a message. She still remembered. She still had the photograph that she had taken. "I've always wondered what happened to you," she wrote. "I'm so proud of you, Thomas." I hadn't sobbed in years until that night. It wasn't loud. It was a quiet, agonizing release, the sensation you get after holding your breath for too long and then breathing. I started sleeping better and waking up earlier. I discovered a new rhythm. My job seemed easier, and my code was cleaner. I took Leo on longer walks. I started writing again. Short tales, essays, anything to channel the chaos in my thoughts into anything coherent. A week later, I received an email from a woman who worked for a group that helps alienated adults, children who have been cut off, disowned or abandoned. She'd learned about the wedding speech from a friend of a friend who worked the event, and she felt it was the most quietly powerful thing she'd ever heard. She inquired whether I would be willing to speak at one of their exclusive retreats. Not as a motivational speaker, but as someone who has experienced it. I said yes. That single event morphed into 2, then 4. Then came an invitation to speak on a panel at a university symposium about family separation and trauma healing. I didn't wear the suit to those. Instead, I wore a basic shirt, trousers, and, on occasion, a blazer to look more polished, but I always carried the photograph. I'd show it when I spoke and explain the narrative precisely like it happened. No exaggeration, just the facts. And every time someone approached me afterward and said, "That happened to me too," I knew I wasn't alone. I'd never been. My voice, which they had previously described as too soft, sensitive and quiet, had finally found its volume. It wasn't vengeance, not yet. But there was power. And with each person I assisted, story I heard, and hand I shook, I felt it expand. Not the rage, but the clarity and assurance. Tyler returned to his new wife and polished reputation, unaware of the ripple I had caused or the knowledge that I was far from finished. Because someone else from their side will soon arrive, asking for answers. It began with another email from Sophia, but this time it was not brief, courteous or neatly written. This one was raw. "Thomas, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did your parents really leave you like that? At 12? I asked Tyler. He didn't deny it. He just said, "It's complicated." But you didn't sound complicated when you told that story. You sounded clear, like someone who's been carrying something heavy for a long time. If it's true, I need to know more. Please. I looked at the message for a long time. Sophia had every incentive to close the door and go on. She could have disregarded me, seen it as family drama, and dismissed me as bitter or unstable. However, she didn't. She asked for the truth, and I was not going to waste it. So I responded. I told her everything. There are no dramatics or exaggerations, simply the facts. I told her about the gas station, the quiet when I returned, how I got through school, how my name was never spoken again, and how they rewrote the family photo as if I were a blemish they could remove. I did not blame her. I did not ask her to choose sides. I just told her the truth and let it sit. She replied the following day. I believe you, and I need time to process this. They never told me. Tyler said he was an only child until we got engaged. They erased you. And now I'm wondering what else they've rewritten. Would you ever be willing to meet for coffee? Just the two of us. It was like watching a crack form in a window that had before been pristine. I knew not to push. I agreed, but I let her select the time and location. We met a week later in a quiet cafe 2 towns from her and Tyler's house. She wore no makeup, pearls or bridal polish, just a hoodie and pants, hair pulled back, eyes bloated as if she hadn't slept. She sat down and didn't even say hi. She simply asked, "What else did they do?" So I told her. Not everything, not the minor humiliations, the 1,000 small cuts that never bled enough for anybody to see, but the major ones. Like when my mother forgot my birthday twice in a row and then blamed me for not reminding her, or when Dad refused to co-sign a minor student loan, stating, "You'll just waste it," while giving Tyler $5,000 for a trip to Cancun. Sophia kept her hands wrapped around her mug the entire time. She asked inquiries and made mental notes. She did not try to defend them. Instead, she listened. Finally she said, "They called you a ghost at the wedding." That's how Tyler explained. He said you vanished when you were a teen. Said you always had a flair for the dramatic. I blinked. They used the word ghost? She nodded. I couldn't help laughing. Not because it was hilarious, but because it was so incredibly perfect. They didn't lose a son, I explained. They buried one. Sophia went quiet and leaned forward, her voice low. You know what scares me most? I waited. She muttered, "What if they do that to our kids someday?" And there it was. The shift. Tyler was unaware that uncertainty had taken root. Sophia stood before she could say anything else. She stated she needed time. She was thankful, and she wasn't ready to talk to him just now, but she'd be in touch. It was 3 days before I received a letter in the mail. As previously stated, there is no return address. But this time, the handwriting was not my mother's. This was my father's. Inside, a note was scribbled in tight, uneven letters. Thomas, I don't know what you think you're doing. This isn't helping anyone. You're bringing shame on the family. Let it go. If you keep stirring things up, there will be consequences. We gave you a second chance to be included. Don't make us regret it. Dad. There it was. No apologies or regrets, just a threat disguised as dignity. I sat with the note for a moment. Then I placed it next to a photo of myself at the age of 12. 2 items from the same legacy. And I smiled because I finally got what I needed. Proof. Words penned with his own hand, expressing who he was and is today. I scanned the letter, saved it in a secure area, and backed it up on 2 cloud drives. Then I took up the phone. I contacted a journalist who I had met at one of the trauma seminars. She once assured me, "If you ever decide to share your story, I'll help you do it right." She answered the first ring. "I'm ready," I said. "But I don't want to just talk. I want to show them." She hesitated and asked, "How far are you willing to go?" I looked down at the note, photo and name on the return invitation that attempted to erase me. "All the way," I said. The piece was titled, "Left Behind. One Man's Quiet Escape from a Family That Tried to Erase Him." It went up on Tuesday morning. By lunchtime, it had been shared thousands of times. Julia Myers, the journalist I worked with, had done her research. She checked every detail. She questioned Mrs. Carter, validated the gas station event, and even tracked down my old landlady, who attested that I had put myself through school without family support. The piece contained a photo of me when I was 12, standing beside a dumpster with a ripped rucksack and shattered sneakers. It includes quotes from my wedding speech. It included my father's letter, which was slightly blurred to protect my privacy, as well as Sophia's consent to state that she had contacted me thereafter. Julia was careful and exact. Nor a tabloid story, nor a scandal-baiting attack job. Just the truth, pure and unadulterated. And that is why it burst, because it was not loud, it was honest. Comments flooded in. People commented that it reminded them of their own estrangement, of being rejected, supplanted, or silenced. Others commended the restraint I demonstrated at the wedding. A few people speculated which vineyard it was, but I never confirmed it. But what mattered most were the private messages I received. Dozens of them from people who had been discarded, forgotten and labeled as problem children by families that refused to accept responsibility. But the best one came from a Kensington, Sophia's older brother. His name was Adrian, and he didn't mince words. I always thought Tyler was fake, too polished, too rehearsed. Now I know why. I'm sorry they did that to you. My parents are furious. Not at you, but at Tyler. They feel like they were lied to. Used. They're meeting with Sophia today. Thought you'd want to know. I didn't respond. I did not need to. Because Sophia sent another email 2 days later. Thomas, I read the article, I saw the comments, I showed Tyler, he exploded, he said you ambushed him, he said you made it all sound worse than it was, but you didn't. You didn't even share everything. And that's what made me realize you're telling the truth. He asked me to choose. I chose. I'm staying at my parents' place for the time being. The marriage is being annulled. I'm sorry it had to happen like this. But thank you for not allowing me to enter that lie with blinders on. Sophia. I reread the message 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and sat in silence for a long time. Because I was not celebrating. I was not gloating. I was remembering. I remember standing in our hallway at 12 years old, holding a gas station candy bar and thinking, they have to come back. They have to. And now, some 2 decades later, the family that had abandoned me had finally experienced what it meant to lose control of the narrative. It was not over. Because 3 days after the piece was published, my parents called. I'm not sure how they acquired my number. Maybe from an old contact, or maybe they just started paying attention to the locations I'd spoken at. But when I saw unknown number, I sent it to voicemail. Then I listened. It was my mother. Her voice trembled. Not with sadness, but rage. Thomas, how dare you? We invited you. We tried to be civil and you humiliated us. You've ruined Tyler's life. Sophia's parents are threatening legal action over the gifts, the deposits, the reputation. You think this is justice? It's cruelty. Vindictive, petty cruelty. I hope you're happy. I hope you're proud of yourself. Then my father called. His voice was not angry. It was silent, nearly defeated. You always were too soft. I should have known you'd grow into the kind of man who'd twist a moment into a weapon. Congratulations. You've destroyed your family. Don't ever call us again. Then he hung up. I stared at the wall for a moment, wondering if the words would sting or resonate as they used to. However, they didn't. Because I did not destroy my family. They shattered the part of me that still required them. And that was the difference. I stood up, walked to my desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out the photo one more time. The 12-year-old boy who had no idea what he would become. I smiled at him. Then I put the photograph away. Not because I was burying the past, but because I had finally completed writing the conclusion. The consequences did not occur all at once, it arrived in bits. First, there were rumors. Mutual pals from my hometown have reached out. People I hadn't spoken with in over a decade. Some privately messaged me in disbelief, while others expressed guilt. I had no idea. I assumed you moved for college. Your folks always called you challenging. Then followed the social media changes. My parents, who had spent years crafting their online presence, suddenly went black. Family photos started vanishing from their pages. The banner, "Proud Parents of Tyler and Sophia," gone. The most telling sign. Tyler deleted his entire wedding album overnight. No explanation, just gone. Tyler had taken a leave of absence from his work, which I learned later through a modest LinkedIn update. The blurb stated, "Personal matters." But I knew better. Sophia had carried through with the annulment. She lived temporarily with her brother before returning to her studies. She left me a brief message weeks later. I'm rebuilding. It's messy, but it's mine. Thank you again. I hope you're doing okay. I was more than okay. The nonprofit asked me to become a regular contributor. I started working with them part-time, coordinating outreach for other estranged young adults. I began writing not only articles, but a book. The working title is, Ghost Son. What happens if they pretend you never existed? I did not compose it for vengeance. I wrote it for my younger self. For the youngsters who are still silently packed a bag they won't open because they are worried their footsteps will be too loud. One day I received a letter from Mrs. Carter, not my parents or Tyler, still in her loopy, generous cursive. Dear Thomas, I clipped your article, read it twice and hung it on the wall of my classroom, right above the desk where I keep extra snacks for students who never bring lunch. I sometimes tell them about you, not by name, but by your story, and how being kind isn't just about helping someone out, it's also about remembering them when everyone else forgets. I'm so proud of you. Love, Mrs. V. That one made me cry. Not the silent tears I was accustomed to. Real ones. The kind that caused something to crack open inside. Because for the first time in my life, I no longer felt the need to prove anything. I was not a shadow. I wasn't forgotten. I was here. I had survived. And suddenly I was alive. So, when people ask me how it felt to stand in front of my family and tell them the truth, I simply grin. Because the truth, the best revenge, does not include seeing them disintegrate. It's witnessing yourself rise in broad sunshine while they're still attempting to rewrite the darkness. And I have never looked back. My twin arrived at my wedding in a white dress, claimed to be me, and tried to interrupt. When I confronted her, she cried, "I'm saving you." I, a 24-year-old female, seek advice on my twin sister Avery, a 24-year-old female, and whether I made the right decision in entirely cutting her off. My family thinks I was overreacting, but I can't get over what she did. Avery and I are identical twins. Growing up, everyone constantly commented on how different we were, even though we looked identical. I was the quiet one who enjoyed literature and painting, whereas she was boisterous and popular. Our parents always made sure we had different identities, but Avery never seemed to be content with that. Throughout high school, Avery copied whatever I did. If I joined the drama club, she would also join. If I started dating someone, she would suddenly find them interesting. When I was accepted to art school with a scholarship, she enrolled to the same program, despite having no prior interest in painting. She was also admitted based on her grades rather than her talent. At art school, I met Ryan, a 26-year-old male. He was in my sculpture class, and we connected over our mutual passion of making things with our hands. Ryan was unlike anyone I'd dated before. He remained calm, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in my job and ambitions. We started dating during our second year. Avery disliked Ryan right away. She would comment on how uninteresting he was and how I should do better. She would interrupt our chats whenever he came over to our shared apartment. She even began flirting with him in front of me, making both Ryan and I uncomfortable. After graduation, Ryan and I relocated to Portland together. Avery remained in our hometown and secured a position at a marketing agency. I could finally breathe after years. I recognized how much Avery's continual presence had changed me. I began creating art that was completely mine, without fear of her copying or condemning it. Ryan proposed to me 6 months ago on a weekend vacation to the coast. It was perfect and private. Just the two of us watching the sunset. When I contacted Avery to deliver her the news, she remained silent for a long time. Then she asked if I was sure I wanted to marry someone this young. She claimed I was rushing into things, and Ryan most likely wanted to lock me up before I discovered I could do better. I dismissed her comments and asked her to be my maid of honor regardless. She agreed, but I could tell she was unhappy about it. The trouble began immediately. Avery preferred to plan everything her way. She chose a dress type she knew I disliked and claimed it would look better on both of us because we were twins. When I tried on several outfits, she threw a fuss and thought I was being difficult. She also suggested alterations to the guest list, venue, and menu. Every idea was the reverse of what Ryan and I want. When I urged her to stop, she explained that she was only trying to help make my wedding better. 3 months ago, Avery paid us a weekend visit to discuss wedding plans. Ryan was out of town for work, leaving just the two of us. I felt it would be good to spend time with my sister like we did as children. On Saturday night, we were discussing centerpiece alternatives when Avery abruptly stopped talking. She looked at me strangely and said she had something important to tell me. She explained that she had been thinking a lot about my engagement and decided she couldn't watch me make such a terrible mistake. She told me Ryan was not the appropriate person for me and that I was settling out of fear of being alone. I inquired what she meant, and she replied Ryan was uninteresting and lacked ambition. She pointed out that he was still working at the same woodworking shop he started directly after graduation, but others his age were climbing corporate ladders. She thought I was too talented and intelligent to be tied down to someone who would limit me. I told her Ryan enjoyed his work and was going to start his own furniture business soon. She laughed and claimed it confirmed her point about him lacking genuine ambition. Then she uttered something that made my blood turn cold. She informed me she had been studying Ryan online and discovered certain issues that troubled her. When I questioned what she meant, she explained that she had seen him eating lunch with a woman from his workplace several times. I immediately recognized who she was talking about. Julia was Ryan's co-worker and friend. She was married with 2 children, and Ryan had mentioned having lunch with her and other co-workers several times. I told Avery about it, but she shook her head and said it seemed like more than friendship to her. Avery took out her phone and showed me images she had shot of Ryan and Julia in a restaurant. They were plainly enjoying a typical lunch chat, but Avery zoomed in and cropped the images to make it appear more intimate than it actually was. I looked at the images and understood that Avery had driven 3 hours to Portland to spy on my fiancé. She had followed him around and took photographs without his knowledge. The level of forethought and duplicity was staggering. When I asked her why she would do this, she broke down in tears. She claimed she loved me too much to let me wreck my life. She persuaded me to call off the engagement, saying we could return home together and start over. That was then I realized what this was all about. Avery was unconcerned about my pleasure. She was angry that I had a life without her. She couldn't bear the fact that Ryan and I were creating something together that didn't include her. I told her she had to leave immediately. She began crying louder and stated I had chosen a man over my own sister. She said that we were intended to stay together forever, and that I was breaking up our family. I packed her suitcases as she sobbed on my couch. When I handed them to her, she grabbed my arm and declared she would not be my maid of honor if I continued to behave like this. I assured her that was all right because she was no longer invited to the wedding at all. She left that night, and I haven't spoken with her since. I blocked her phone number and social media profiles. The next day I received calls from my parents, aunts, and several relatives. Avery had contacted everyone and informed them that I had kicked her out for attempting to help me. She claimed I accused her of lying and chose Ryan over family. My mother contacted me crying, saying she couldn't believe I'd treat Avery like this. She claimed Avery was simply looking out for me and that cutting her off was excessive. My father was quieter, but agreed that I should try to resolve matters with Avery. My extended family has taken sides. Some say I overreacted, while others understand why I was furious. But the majority believe I should forgive Avery because she is my twin, and we have always been close. Ryan has been sympathetic, but I can sense he is stressed about the issue. He offered to speak with Avery directly, but I declined. I don't want her anywhere near him or our relationship. The wedding is in 2 months and I keep receiving texts from family members asking if Avery will go. When I answer no, they look at me as if I'm the villain in the story. I've started questioning myself. Maybe Avery was genuinely trying to help in her own misguided way. Perhaps I was too harsh by cutting her off entirely. But every time I think about those images and the preparation that went into taking them, I become irritated all over again. Am I wrong to terminate my friendship with my twin sister over this? Should I try to reconcile before to the wedding? Update 1. I had not expected my post to receive so much attention, so thank you to everyone who commented. The majority of you reinforced what I already knew deep inside, which helped me remain strong when things grew worse. Much has happened since I last updated. My mother called 2 weeks ago and asked if she could come visit to talk about Avery. I consented since I assumed she'd come to see my point of view. When she arrived, she had Avery with her. They plotted this ambush together, hoping to force me to reconcile. I opened my door and found both of them standing there with bags, and I almost shut it. My mother quickly explained that they just wanted to talk and that Avery had something important to tell me. Avery was in tears before she even stepped inside. I welcomed them in but told them they couldn't stay in my house. They could find a motel if they planned to stay for more than a few hours. Avery instantly apologized. She admitted she had overstepped and apologized for following Ryan around. She claimed she was afraid of losing me and behaved out of panic. But then she said something that made me know she still had no idea what she had done wrong. She expressed her desire that I could forgive her error so that we could move forward and plan the wedding together. I asked her what error she was referring to. She agreed shooting the images was wrong, but she maintained her concerns about Ryan. She still believed I was rushing into marriage and Ryan was not ambitious enough for me. My mother nodded, saying Avery had excellent concerns concerning Ryan. She explained that they both wanted what was best for me. I asked my mother if she had seen the photographs Avery had taken. She responded yes, and that while Avery should not have followed Ryan, the images did raise some concerns about his relationship with another lady. I couldn't believe what I heard. I took out my phone and dialed Ryan, putting him on speaker. I urged him to tell my mother and Avery about Julia. Ryan stated that Julia was a friend and co-worker who had helped him organize a surprise for me. They had been meeting to finalize specifications for a bespoke jewelry box he was creating for our anniversary. He explained that he had been careful not to mention it around me because he wanted it to be a surprise. Then Ryan said something that made my stomach sink. He inquired if this was about the private investigator, as Julia had said that someone had been questioning both of them at work. Avery's face turned white. When I asked her what Ryan was talking about, she started crying again. It found out Avery had done more than merely take images. She'd hired someone to research Ryan and had been looking for dirt on him for months. The investigator had called Ryan's co-workers, including Julia, and inquired about his conduct and relationships. Julia told her husband about it, and they were both concerned that someone was stalking them. I looked at Avery and inquired how far she had traveled. She admits to conducting background investigations on Ryan and even calling his ex-girlfriend from college to inquire about their connection. My mother attempted to defend Avery by claiming she was only being thorough because she cared about me. She stated it was wise to know who you were marrying. I told both of them to go immediately. Avery began pleading, saying she would stop investigating Ryan if I would simply listen to her concerns. My mother told me I was being unfair, and that Avery had spent a lot of money to protect me. I stated I didn't care how much money Avery had spent on her infatuation. I informed them that they had 1 hour to pack and leave, or I will contact the cops. Ryan returned home from work early after they had left. He was frightened by the phone call and wanted to make sure I was all right. We chatted for hours about what Avery had done. Ryan informed me that the investigator had contacted his supervisor and other clients, inquiring about his work quality and personal life. His employer had pulled him away to see if he was in any legal problems. Ryan had felt perplexed and humiliated, but hadn't connected it to Avery until now. We also called Julia and her husband to apologize and explain what had occurred. They were relieved to finally understand why someone had inquired about them, but they were also disappointed that they had been drawn into family conflict. The next day my father called me. He claimed my mother had told him everything and he wanted to hear my side of the tale. My father remained silent for a long time after I told him about the private investigator and Ryan's co-workers' harassment. Finally, he denied knowing anything about it. He claimed my mother and Avery told him I was overreacting to some images, not that Avery hired someone to stalk my fiancé. My father apologized for not supporting me before. He claimed he would talk to my mother about Avery's behavior and attempt to explain why I was unhappy, but the harm had already been done. Our extended family had learned about the private investigator, and everyone was now taking sides. Some relatives believe Avery went too far, while others believe she was simply trying to protect her sister. My mother has called me every day, swinging between wrath and guilt. She claims I'm pulling the family apart and that Avery is distraught. She constantly urging me to let Avery attend the wedding as a regular guest. I've not changed my mind. Avery is not invited, and anyone who brings her as a +1 will be asked to leave. Ryan and I decided to hire security for the wedding after his boss informed us that the investigator had inquired about our wedding date and venue. We're concerned Avery will try to show there regardless. The worst aspect is that this entire issue has ruined what should have been a pleasant period in our lives. Instead of discussing our future together, we are coping with Avery's fixation and my family's problems. I keep thinking if I could have handled this differently. But every time I think about Avery hiring a private investigator, I realize I made the correct decision. Update 2. The wedding happened 3 weeks ago, and I need to tell you what happened since it was worse than I feared. Security was absolutely the right decision. Avery attempted to show there, not as a guest, but as someone claiming to be me. She had apparently planned this for some weeks. Avery arrived at the wedding location wearing a white dress that was identical to mine. She had received a copy of my dress design, most likely from my mother. She informed the security guy that she was the bride and that the guest list had been mixed up. Luckily, the security team was ready. They asked for her ID and promptly called me. I was getting dressed in the bridal suite when they informed me that someone claiming to be me was trying to enter. I peeked out the window and noticed her arguing with security. She had done her hair and cosmetics just like mine. From a distance, we appeared identical. It felt like witnessing a warped version of myself. The security team took Avery off the site, but she did not go quietly. She stood in the parking lot, yelling that I was making a horrible mistake and that Ryan would cheat on me. Several visitors arrived early and heard everything. My mother was already inside the venue, helping with last-minute preparations. When security told her what had transpired, she dashed outside to speak with Avery. They had a loud quarrel in the parking lot, which half of the wedding party witnessed. My mother rushed back inside crying and asked me to let Avery stay for the ceremony. She said Avery was upset and only wanted to see me get married. I told her no, and that if she continued to push, she may leave as well. Despite all of this, the ceremony was magnificent. Ryan and I were able to focus on each other and forget about the commotion outside, although I noticed other people gazing around nervously, probably wondering if Avery would return. The situation deteriorated during the reception. Avery had obviously been watching from across the street. When she noticed guests going for restroom breaks or to smoke, she approached a few. My cousin Nathan approached me during supper and told me that Avery had stopped him outdoors. She had informed him that Ryan was already cheating, and she had proof. She handed him printouts of text messages allegedly exchanged between Ryan and other women. Nathan stated that the messages appeared to be false, as if someone had produced them using screenshots. The phone numbers did not correspond to any of Ryan's devices, and several of the messages mentioned topics that made no sense. But Avery did not stop there. She had made phony social media profiles with images of ladies from Ryan's office and was sending herself messages pretending to be them. She then collected screenshots of these fictitious exchanges as evidence. Nathan told me this, and I understood Avery had completely lost contact with reality. She had expanded her investigation beyond Ryan. She was actively fabricating evidence to support her claim. Ryan and I decided to contact the police. Avery was harassing, and the fabricated evidence may be called fraud. We wanted to film everything in case the situation went further. The cops collected our statement and stated they will speak with Avery. They stated that showing up to the wedding in a bridal gown may be deemed impersonation, and fabricating proof was absolutely prohibited. 2 hours later, my phone began ringing with calls from family members. Avery had been arrested. She was accused with harassment and falsifying records. My mother was at the police station trying to bail her out. I should have stayed at my own wedding reception, but I felt compelled to go to the station and confront this situation head-on. Ryan accompanied me, and we met my parents there. My mother laughed so hard. She continued insisting it was all my fault for not forgiving Avery sooner. She stated that if I had simply included Avery at the wedding, none of this would have occurred. My father looked fatigued. He drew me aside and told me that he had no idea about the false texts until the cops described what Avery had done. He claimed Avery had lied to both of my parents about the scope of her conduct. When Avery was released on bond, she appeared dreadful. Her makeup was smudged and her clothing was crumpled. When she saw me, she burst into tears, apologizing and pleading for her sister to return. But then she said something that showed me she still didn't comprehend. She expressed her hope that now that I had witnessed how far Ryan would go to turn me against my family, I would finally listen to her concerns. I inquired what she meant. She claimed Ryan's call to the police demonstrated his controlling and vengeful nature. She claimed that a good man would have forgiven her mistakes and attempted to resolve the situation quietly. That's when I realized Avery would never change. Even after being jailed, she continued to make Ryan the villain in her fiction. I told Avery I didn't want to see her again. I threatened to file a restraining order if she approached me, Ryan, or anyone else in our lives again. My parents attempted to object, but I was done listening. Ryan and I returned to the venue to resume our celebration. Most of our guests knew what had happened, but they were supportive and attempted to help us salvage the evening. My father called me the next day to apologize. He stated that he was seeking for divorce from my mother. He couldn't stay married to someone who encouraged Avery's actions while blaming me for the repercussions. My mother has been phoning me non-stop since then, but I have not responded. She left voicemails stating, "I am destroying the family, and that Avery needs help, not punishment." Avery's court date is next month. Her lawyer contacted us and asked if we would consider dropping the charges if Avery agreed to stay away from us. We said no. Avery must face serious consequences for what she did. Update 3: Avery was sentenced to 6 months probation and obligatory treatment last week. She must also pay restitution for the expense of our wedding security, and will be unable to contact Ryan or myself for the next 2 years. However, it is not why I am writing this final update. Something happened that made me realize Avery's difficulties are far deeper than I previously imagined. 3 weeks ago I received a call from Lisa, Avery's college roommate. I hadn't communicated with Lisa since graduation, so I was surprised to hear from her. Lisa explained that she had heard of Avery's arrest through mutual acquaintances and wanted to tell me something important. She claimed she should have spoken up years ago but was frightened of becoming embroiled in family conflict. Lisa informed me that during college, Avery was preoccupied with emulating me in ways I had no idea about. She stated that Avery would browse through my social media profiles and copy my art creations before I posted them. Avery would turn in her copies first, making it appear that I was copying her. Avery had also started intercepting mail and items addressed to me in our shared apartment. She had opened acceptance letters from galleries and art competitions that I had submitted and discarded the ones that had received favorable feedback. Lisa explained that she tried to tell me about this during our senior year, but Avery persuaded her not to because I was already anxious about graduation and job seeking. But the worst thing was what Lisa said next. She claimed Avery had been undermining my relationships long before Ryan. In college, Avery would contact the guys I was dating and inform them that I was seeing other people or had said terrible things about them. Lisa showed me screenshots she had saved from years before. Avery had staged false text conversations that made it appear as if I was trash-talking my boyfriends to others. She had provided phony screenshots to the males I was dating, resulting in multiple breakups. I remembered those relationships ending abruptly, with men accusing me of things I had never said or done. At the time, I assumed they were immature or seeking for reasons to break up. I never suspected Avery was involved. Lisa apologized for not informing me sooner. She claimed she was young and afraid, that Avery had convinced her that she was protecting me from men who were not good enough. After meeting with Lisa, I began reaching out to other college classmates. 2 more of Avery's roommates confirmed similar accounts. Avery had been deliberately undermining my relationships and opportunities for years. I also discovered that Avery had been telling people we were going to start a business together after college. She had used my portfolio and artwork to apply for employment, stating that we were a creative partnership. When Avery failed to show up for interviews, several employers contacted me to inquire. Armed with this information, I decided to write to Avery's probation officer. I wanted them to understand that her behavior toward me and Ryan was part of a larger pattern of dishonesty and manipulation. The probation officer thanked me for the information, saying it would help Avery with his court-ordered counseling. They advised Avery to address these deeper concerns if she wanted to prevent more serious legal troubles in the future. My mother found out about the letter and called me yelling. She accused me of being vindictive and harsh by attempting to worsen Avery's punishment. She stated that Avery was sick and needed family assistance, not further legal issues. I told my mother that Avery had been actively ruining my life for years, and that I was done protecting her from the consequences. I said that if she wanted to help Avery, she could push her to accept responsibility for her actions rather than making excuses. My mother stated I was heartless, and she was embarrassed to name me her daughter. She claimed she would never forgive me for wrecking Avery's life. She then hung up on me. My father contacted me later that day. He admitted that he was unaware of Avery's undergraduate activities, but he was unsurprised. He stated he had always felt Avery had major mental health difficulties, but my mother had refused to seek professional treatment. He also informed me that my mother had been giving money to Avery while she was on probation, despite the court's order that she work and support herself. My mother had been lying to him about their finances to conceal these payments. My father stated that he had filed divorce papers and was leaving the family home. He stated he couldn't keep enabling Avery's conduct through my mother, and he was weary of being lied to. Ryan and I have been in couples counseling to get through all that has transpired. Our counselor informed us that we both have PTSD from Avery's harassment campaign, and that it will take time to totally trust that we are secure from her involvement. We also had to change our phone numbers and move to a new apartment because Avery had obtained our address and was mailing letters despite the restraining order. The letters were not threatening, but they were long, rambling apologies that demonstrated she still didn't know what she had done wrong. I have not spoken with my mother since our last phone talk. She attempted to contact me through relatives, but I begged them not to send along messages. I am not ready to be in a relationship with someone who believes I am the villain in this circumstance. Avery's probation officer phoned me last month, informing me that she had broken her probation by attempting to contact Ryan's workplace again. She called his supervisor pretending to be a client and inquired about Ryan's work schedule and personal life. Avery now faces jail time, rather than merely probation. Her lawyer requested us to testify on her behalf at the sentence, but we rejected. We have done everything we can to help Avery escape major repercussions, yet she continues to breach the court's rules. I know some people may think I'm being too severe by not assisting Avery at her sentencing, but I've learned that shielding Avery from repercussions simply allows her to continue harming others. Ryan and I plan to relocate to another state after his lease expires. We want to start again somewhere where Avery cannot find us. It seems severe, but we need to know we're entirely protected from her obsession. I never imagined I'd break off my twin sister forever, but Avery demonstrated that being family does not give someone the right to ruin your life. Some relationships, especially those involving individuals you care about, are too poisonous to heal. For anyone in a similar circumstance, believe your intuition about poisonous family members. You do not have to give anyone access to your life simply because you share DNA. Walking away from a situation is sometimes the most considerate thing you can do for everyone. Now let us go to the following narrative. Story 2. I struggled with infertility for 7 years. When I eventually became pregnant, my brother accused me of selfishness. Now he shows up intoxicated at my house, asking to see my newborn. I, 34, never imagined myself in this situation, divided between my lifelong desire of becoming a mother and my connection with my older brother, Nathan, 38. Growing up, Nathan and I were inseparable. He was my defender, confidant, and closest friend. We come from a close-knit family, and our parents constantly emphasized the value of sibling relationships. Nathan was the one who taught me how to ride a bike, helped me with my homework, and chased off the boys who tried to bully me in middle school. Our friendship grew stronger with age. Nathan was suspicious when I met my husband, Kevin, a 35-year-old male in college. He interrogated Kevin mercilessly during our first family dinner, inquiring about his ambitions and future plans. However, Nathan eventually came to consider Kevin as the brother he never had. They bonded over their mutual love of football and horrible dad jokes. Nathan was even Kevin's best man in our wedding 10 years ago. Everything changed when Kevin and I began trying for a baby 7 years ago. We were so happy and naive back then, assuming everything would happen swiftly. But month after month, we were disappointed. We initially kept it to ourselves, not wanting to concern our families. But as time passed and the difficulties became more evident, we opened up about our fertility problems. Nathan's wife, Julia, 36, became pregnant with their first child about the same time we began trying. I was truly delighted for them, but it was difficult to watch them start a family so easily while we battled. Nathan, who had always been my support, now appeared aloof and uncomfortable around me. He would dodge the issue of babies entirely, or make awkward jokes about how we needed to work harder. As our reproductive journey progressed, we had several rounds of IVF. Each setback was painful, but we tried to maintain optimism. During this time, Nathan and Julia had 2 additional children quickly. While I enjoyed being an aunt, each pregnancy announcement and baby shower seemed like a stab in my heart. Nathan's actions at this time were perplexing and hurtful. He appeared to alternate between completely shunning me and making offensive comments. After a particularly painful failed IVF round, he suggested to me during a family meal that I stop thinking about having a baby and instead pursue a hobby. I was astonished and upset, but I attempted to dismiss it, telling myself he simply didn't understand. 2 years ago, after our previous failed IVF treatment, our doctor advised us that our chances of conceiving were extremely slim. I was crushed. I slipped into a severe despair and scarcely left the house for weeks. Kevin was my rock during this time, but I could see how it was affecting him as well. Nathan's insensitivity peaked throughout this gloomy period. He'd often say things like, "Just relax, it'll happen when you stop trying so hard," or, "Maybe you're not meant to be a mom." Each word felt like a knife coming from my brother, who had once been my staunchest advocate. The matter reached a climax at our parents' 40th anniversary party last year. I had just learned that our last IVF round had failed, and I was feeling especially raw and vulnerable. I attempted to put on a brave face for our parents' sake, but my anguish was clearly obvious. Nathan cornered me in the kitchen as I was getting a glass of water. He began lecturing me on how I should get over it and stop being so selfish. He told me that my mopey attitude was destroying family gatherings, and that instead of wallowing in self-pity, I should be happy for him and Julia. He also implied that my fixation with having a baby was straining his relationship with Kevin. I was stunned. This was not the brother I knew or loved. I attempted to convey how cruel his words were, how the sorrow of infertility was not something I could simply get over. But he only became angrier, accusing me of being jealous of his children and trying to make everything about myself. Kevin came to check on me after the debate became heated. When he saw what was going on, he intervened, telling Nathan to back off and stop being so cruel. Nathan stormed out, furious. Kevin and I left the party early, disturbed by what had happened. Nathan and I have had a difficult relationship ever since. At family gatherings, he rarely speaks to me, and when he does, it is usually to make sarcastic remarks. Our parents attempted to mediate by hosting family dinners and encouraged us to speak things out. But Nathan refuses to admit he'd done anything wrong. He insists that I am overreacting and should mature. This schism has altered the entire family dynamic. Sophie, our younger sister, 30 female, feels trapped in the middle, attempting to maintain ties with both of us without taking sides. Our parents are anxious and upset by the dispute, frequently recalling the close relationship Nathan and I formerly had. Last month, something unexpected occurred. I began feeling nauseated and fatigued all the time. At first, I disregarded it as stress caused by continuing family strife and my hard profession as a high school teacher. However, after a few weeks when the symptoms did not improve, I decided to see my doctor. She informed me that I was roughly 12 weeks pregnant, which really surprised me. Kevin and I were ecstatic but yet apprehensive, considering our history. We opted to keep the news hidden until we were further along, not wanting to raise our hopes or cope with family reactions right away. However, over a family dinner last week, our mother noted that I wasn't drinking wine, which was unusual for me. She guessed quickly and was overjoyed. In her excitement, she began informing everyone at the table, including Nathan and Julia. Nathan's reply did not meet my expectations. Instead of being pleased for us, he accused me of stealing his thunder. Julia is reportedly pregnant with their 4th child, and they intend to announce it at the next family gathering. He felt it was selfish of me to become pregnant now since his children were old enough to enjoy having a newborn cousin. I felt hurt and enraged. This felt like the final nail in the coffin after years of insensitivity and harsh comments regarding our fertility issues. Kevin, my constant defender, informed Nathan that his actions were wrong and that if he couldn't be pleased for us, he should keep his feelings to himself. The evening ended in pandemonium, with Nathan and Julia leaving abruptly and our parents attempting to calm things down. Since then, Kevin and I have agreed to minimize our contact with Nathan and Julia during my pregnancy. We do not want any more stress at this high-risk period. Some family members, particularly our sister Sophie and our uncle Victor, 58, believe we are overreacting. They suggest we shouldn't give up our relationship with Nathan over this. That family is extremely essential. But I believe this is simply the culmination of years of cruel behavior. Is it terrible that I want to distance myself from my brother during what should be one of the best periods of my life? How can I strike a balance between my want to safeguard my mental health and pregnancy and the need to maintain family harmony? I never imagined I'd have to choose between my brother and my own well-being, yet here I am, feeling lost and divided. Update 1. It's been approximately 2 months since my last post, and a lot has happened. I'm 20 weeks pregnant, and we just found out we're having a girl. Kevin and I are overjoyed, but Nathan's position has deteriorated more. After we revealed our plan to limit contact, Nathan went on a rampage. He began calling our parents, Sophie and other relatives, claiming that we were being dramatic and selfish. He even went on a huge Facebook rant about how family should always come first, and how heartbroken he was that we were pushing him away without reason. Our parents were originally torn. They've always been peacemakers, and the prospect of their children fighting is distressing for them. Mom would contact me virtually every day, tearfully imploring for us to sort things out. Dad, who is normally more stoic, appeared disoriented and unsure how to handle the situation. They wanted everyone to get along and couldn't understand why we couldn't simply talk it out. But then something unexpected occurred. Our 32-year-old female relative Maya contacted me privately. Maya and I were close as children, but we grew apart as she traveled across the nation for work. She told me she had been following the family drama from a distance and felt driven to share her own experience with Nathan. Maya apparently suffered a miscarriage 2 years ago. She had been about 10 weeks pregnant and was horrified. She had confided in Nathan during a rare visit home, and he had been equally insensitive. According to Maya, he encouraged her to get over it because the baby wasn't even born yet. He argued she was overreacting and should be thankful it happened early rather than later in the pregnancy. Maya's story stunned me. It was like a missing puzzle piece fell into fit, revealing a pattern of conduct I hadn't previously noticed. It also gave me the strength to tell our parents about Nathan's harsh words and actions over the years. I showed them text conversations in which he insulted our fertility issues and rejected our pain. I described situations at family gatherings in which he made offensive remarks or jokes about us. Our parents were startled. They had no knowledge of Nathan's actions. Mom burst into tears, apologizing for not realizing what was happening, and for forcing us to reconcile. Dad, who has always been a man of few words, merely stated that he was disappointed in Nathan and understood our need for distance. This discovery altered the family dynamic substantially. Our parents stopped urging us to make amends with Nathan and began setting their own boundaries. They informed Nathan that his behavior was inappropriate and that he needed to apologize and make apologies if he wanted to fully participate in family functions. Nathan didn't take it well. He accused me of inciting the family against him and manipulating our parents. He began sending angry letters to everyone, accusing us of conspiring against him and Julia. Last weekend, at a family BBQ, things became heated. It was meant to be a small party to commemorate Sophie's recent promotion at work. Kevin and I had declined to attend because we knew Nathan and Julia would be present. However, midway through the event, Sophie gave us a frantic call. Nathan apparently arrived in a nasty attitude, having already consumed a few drinks. He immediately began making passive-aggressive remarks about how some individuals believe they are too good for family. When Sophie ordered him to stop, he became louder and more obnoxious, complaining about how unfair everyone was to him. Kevin and I decided to go over and try to defuse the situation. When we arrived, the anxiety was evident. Nathan, red-faced and slurring slightly, quickly focused on us. He began throwing accusations, claiming that we were pulling the family apart and that we were greedy for hogging all the attention with our pregnancy. Kevin tried to calm him down, speaking in a low, soothing tone, and asking Nathan to consider the anguish he was causing. But Nathan was beyond reason. He got in Kevin's face, poked his chest, and asked if he wanted to take it outside. That's when our father stepped in. I've never seen him this angry. He physically positioned himself between Nathan and Kevin, telling Nathan that his behavior was inappropriate, and that if he couldn't be supportive, he should leave. Nathan was stunned. He tried to disagree, but our mother stood by Dad, stating Nathan's activities were harming everyone and that he needed to step back and reflect on his behavior. Nathan and Julia drove away in a fury, with Nathan yelling that we'd regret this. The rest of us were left terrified, with the BBQ effectively wrecked. Sophie was in tears, feeling guilty about organizing the event in the first place. Our parents were older than I had ever seen them, worn out by the battle. Since then, Nathan has been sending angry texts to everyone, saying that we have turned the family against him. He's been posting vague angry posts on social media, prompting worrisome responses from extended relatives and old acquaintances who don't know the whole situation. Most relatives are ignoring him, but a few, like our Aunt Caroline, 55 female, and Uncle Victor, continue to pressure us to reunite for the sake of family harmony. They keep talking about how we'll regret this schism once our parents are gone, and how family should always come first. But Kevin and I are standing firm. We've opted to focus on getting ready for our daughter's arrival and surround ourselves with good, helpful people. We've started taking childbirth classes and have been busy preparing the nursery. Kevin's parents, who live a few hours away, have been incredibly helpful, frequently driving up on weekends to assist and provide emotional support. It's unfortunate that Nathan will not be able to join us during this joyful period of our lives. There are times when I miss the brother I once had. The one who protected me and made me laugh. But then I remember all of the misery he has caused, and I know we are making the correct decision for our mental health and our baby's well-being. As my due date approaches, I'm trying to focus on the joy of being a mother rather than the family drama. But it's difficult not to wonder what the future holds. Will Nathan ever comprehend the pain he has caused? Will our family ever be able to mend from this rift? Only time will tell. Update 2. Another several months have passed, and I am now 32 weeks pregnant. The situation with Nathan has taken an unexpected turn, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Last month, Julia texted me and asked if we might meet for coffee. Given what had happened, I was cautious, but my curiosity won out. We met at a quiet cafe near my house, and Julia's words left me reeling. She began by apologizing for not confronting Nathan's actions throughout the years. She said that things in their marriage had not been going well for a long time, even before the recent turmoil. Nathan's insensitivity appears to extend beyond family members who are suffering with fertility. He has been dismissive of Julia's issues with postpartum depression since their last child, and has been spending more and more time away from home. Julia revealed that she has been pondering leaving Nathan. She stated that watching Kevin support me made her realize how unhealthy her own relationship is. She informed me about situations I was unaware of, such as Nathan mocking her professional goals, rejecting her fears about their children, and even flirting with other women at parties. I was sympathetic, but apprehensive. While I accepted her apologies and felt terrible for her position, I made it plain that it did not erase years of pain. I suggested that she speak with a therapist or counselor to sort through her emotions and determine her next actions. After our meeting, I felt conflicted. Part of me felt vindicated that someone else recognized Nathan's behavior for what it was, while another part of me was saddened by the degradation of a once strong friendship. Nathan unexpectedly arrived at our house a week after Julia's confession. It was a Sunday afternoon, and Kevin and I were putting together the crib for the nursery. Nathan looked terrible. Unshaven, with big circles under his eyes that indicated he hadn't slept in days. He burst out screaming almost immediately, stating Julia had abandoned him and taken the kids to her parents' place. Between sobbing, he told us that Julia had given him an ultimatum: either receive assistance for his anger and drinking issues, or she will file divorce. Nathan requested us to help him resolve issues with Julia and the rest of the family. He admitted he had been a horrible jerk and wanted to make amends. He even got down on his knees, pleading with me to contact Julia on his behalf. I felt conflicted. Part of me felt bad for him. This broken man was so unlike the strong, protective older brother I previously knew. But a greater part of me was still upset at how he had treated us and suspicious of his sudden change of heart. Kevin and I exchanged a look, silently communicating as we frequently do. Then, as gently as possible, we told Nathan that, while we were sorry he was going through a difficult time, we couldn't help him. We advised him to seek professional help to resolve his troubles, both for his own and his family's sake. Nathan didn't take it well. His sorrow immediately turned to rage. He accused us of being callous, claiming we were kicking him while he was down. He stated that he could not believe his own sister would desert him in his time of need. Then he stormed out, slamming our front door so fiercely that the portraits rattled against the walls. We haven't heard from Nathan directly since then, but the family gossip has been rife. Our parents called the next day to inform us that Nathan had arrived at their home in a similar state. They're trying to persuade him to go to therapy, but he's not interested. Sophie contacted me in tears, explaining that Nathan had been leaving her rambling, sometimes incomprehensible voicemails. She is concerned about his mental health, but she is unsure how to help. I urged her to retain her distance for now, and to encourage Nathan to seek professional help if he contacted her again. The entire incident has elicited a range of complex emotions. While I don't want to see my brother suffer, I also don't feel ready to welcome him back into my life, especially with the kid on the way. His explosive behavior is troubling, and I'm concerned about the stress it may bring for me and the baby. Continuing from where we left off, Kevin and I are attempting to focus on the final preparations for our daughter's arrival, but the family drama is obviously putting a pall over what should be a joyous occasion. We've finished putting up the nursery, a serene space painted in subtle yellows and greens. Kevin's mother assisted us in decorating, and it has quickly become my favorite room in the house. Sometimes I sit in the rocking chair, caressing my belly and chatting to our little girl, trying to distract myself from the family drama. We've started going to childbirth classes twice a week. The other expectant parents have formed a type of support network. It's wonderful to be around people who don't know about our family problems and simply see us as a happy couple expecting their first kid. Despite everything, I'm trying to have a positive attitude and concentrate on the wonder that is growing inside of me. After years of believing it would never happen, each kick and movement seems like a priceless gift. Kevin has been my rock throughout this, attending every doctor's visit, satisfying my midnight desires, and knowing when I need a hug or a listening ear. As my due date approaches, I can't help but ponder about the future. Will Nathan get the help he requires? Will our family ever be able to mend from this rift? Only time will tell. Update 3. Our beautiful daughter, Lily, was born 3 weeks ago. The birth was difficult. I needed an emergency C-section after 20 hours of labor, but Lily and I are doing well now. The instant they placed her in my arms, all of the sorrow and hardship of the previous year seemed to vanish. Kevin has been an amazing rock through everything, seldom leaving our side during our hospital stay. Coming home with Lily has been a roller coaster of emotions. We're fatigued, but utterly smitten with our little child. The nights are long, and the days are full of feedings, diaper changes, and stolen naps. But every time Lily wraps her tiny fingers around my finger, or Kevin makes her smile, my heart feels like it will burst with joy. Unfortunately, the drama with Nathan has not faded. He did not contact us when Lily was born, despite our parents informing him. They said he has been asking about her, but he is furious because we did not tell him about the birth ourselves. It's frustrating because it appears that he's making Lily's birth about him rather than celebrating her new life. Our parents and Sophie have been to see Lily several times, and they adore her. It's bittersweet to watch them with her, knowing that in another universe, Nathan and his family would also be there. Sophie revealed that Nathan's children have been asking about their new cousin, wondering why they haven't met her yet. Julia called us again last week. She and the children are still living with her parents, and she has initiated divorce proceedings. Nathan evidently refused to get therapy or admit his problems, leaving her with no choice. She asked whether we would be willing to write a statement on Nathan's behavior throughout the years, which could be significant to their custody arrangements. Kevin and I are still deciding whether or not to become involved. On the one hand, we want to encourage Julia while also ensuring the children's health. On the other hand, we're concerned about getting drawn into legal processes and potentially worsening our issue with Nathan. The most recent development occurred yesterday, and it has left us shaken. Nathan arrived at our place in the evening, definitely wasted. He began hammering on the door, yelling about how we had ruined his life and demanding to see his niece. Lily was sleeping when his ranting woke her up, causing her to wail. Kevin managed to calm Nathan down and get him to go without incident, but it was frightening. The notion of Nathan's unpredictable conduct around our newborn daughter is unsettling. We're really considering getting a restraining order, which I never expected to have to do against my own brother. This entire issue has shown me how toxic Nathan's presence in our lives has been. While I hope he gets the care he requires, my current concern is to safeguard my daughter and our small family. We're thinking of relocating to a new house in a different neighborhood, partially to give Lily more space as she develops, but also to get away from all the turmoil. We've also begun to discuss the prospect of family therapy, not necessarily with Nathan right now, but potentially with our parents and Sophie. There's a lot of hurt and confusion to get through, and we believe that having a neutral third party may help us manage these complex emotions and familial dynamics. Despite everything, the last few weeks with Lily have been the happiest of my life. Kevin and I are fatigued but incredibly smitten with our little child. We're focusing on enjoying this precious time and creating a positive, loving atmosphere for our baby. Every day, I gaze at Lily and feel grateful for the difficult route that led her to us. While Nathan's situation has been heartbreaking, it has also increased my appreciation for the healthy, supportive relationships in my life. As we move forward, our objective is to surround Lily with love, positivity, and strong, healthy family bonds, whatever that family looks like. My sister helped me for 1 week, then I called her ugly and lazy. She told me, "No wonder he left you," and walked out of my life forever. I am the eldest sister, 34 years old. One child, 4, learning how to tie his own shoelaces. And one baby, 6 months old, who often sleeps like an angel in my arms. People say I'm sharp-tongued, hot-tempered, controlling. They don't ask why a woman becomes that way. No one asks what it feels like to be betrayed in the 8th month of pregnancy. To watch your husband vanish with the wedding gold, the bracelet, things my parents gave me to weather storms, and leave me with a child staring at me and asking, "Where's Dad?" If you've ever pushed a dead car up a hill in the rain at night, you'll understand. The whole slope echoing only with your own breath. You plant your feet, hunch your shoulders, push inch by inch, head down. No one comes to rescue you. You do it yourself. You do it yourself so much that you forget you were ever helped before. My younger sister, the stable one, the happy one, the spoiled one, got married, moved in with her husband, and lived her new full life like the wedding photos framed on the wall. I was truly happy for her. But the truth is, inside me there was a crack. What I once had turned to ashes, while she was just laying the foundation for her own home. If you want to call it jealousy, fine. I call it something else. The fear of being left alone. She and I have never gotten along. We fought as children, fought through high school, fought as adults, petty things that could explode like a pan of hot oil. I said she was weak, she said I was cruel. Maybe we were both right. My father lives near me. He still helps watch my 4-year-old, rocks the baby so I can rush through a shower. That week he went on vacation, and he told, really decided for, my sister to come help me for a week. I thought, good. Maybe this is the time she sees my world. Not through a few minutes on the phone, but through the smell of diapers, the cries that tear through sleep, the cold meals interrupted by a child's vomiting. I wanted her to see, so she would understand. The first day, she and her husband came early. He mowed the lawn. She sat on the sofa holding the little bundle of fluff. I said thank you. But what thank you is enough to cover an endless week. By evening, exactly 6 o'clock, they went back to my father's house. I cleared the dishes, counted bottles, looked at the laundry pile, smelled the fresh-cut grass and felt a stab in my chest, as if I had just paid for a service, not received kindness from family. On the 3rd day her husband picked up my boy from school. I was grateful. But too much gratitude makes me afraid. Gratitude unsaid becomes silent debt. And debts must be paid. I looked at her sitting there. She didn't talk much. Her eyes slid away when I brought up her weight. In her silence I saw avoidance. I hate silence. Silence to me is the pit people throw themselves into to escape the hard question. What do you want from your life? Don't you want to lose weight? I asked. My voice was sharp as a blade slicing paper. She pressed her lips together. I'm trying. Trying how? I heard my own harshness. You're lazy. You just sit here. Maybe, right then, I was wrong. But my wrongness didn't come from malice. It came from the stubbornness of someone life had beaten with whips. I had learned that no one pulls you out of the mud except yourself. I had learned that your body is your last fortress. If it falls, you have nothing left. I had learned that speaking bluntly, even if it hurts, is better than pretending to be kind while everyone drowns. On the 4th night she whispered to me about children, tracking cycles, fatigue, nausea. She said she had lost one just 2 weeks ago. I froze. I didn't hug her. I didn't react like some perfect comfort video people love to watch. I listened, and felt a stone fall into my chest. Something inside me burst open. The bitter water rose to my throat, but I swallowed. I had no right to collapse. I still had bottles to wash, clothes to hang, alarms to set for 2 a.m. I looked at her, saw her swollen eyes and a sky caving in, but my arms were holding the baby, and my life has no pause button. Whatever you need, just tell me, she said. I heard it like someone tossing me a thin rope. I wanted to say, don't just try, you must fight. But what came out was, "You have to change." And God, when I said change, I pronounced it like a command. On the 5th day, I watched her in the mirror. I heard her breath. I knew she hated her body. I knew because I once hated mine even more. After my first child, my face was round as the moon, veins burst in my chest, stretch marks purple as lightning strikes. I never took pictures. I deleted every photo. I had lived it. The feeling of staring into a mirror and seeing yourself deformed. I understood. But understanding didn't soften me. Understanding made me angrier. Why know and not act? Why keep waiting? "You always talk," she murmured. "But do you ever listen?" I gave a cold laugh. "I've listened until I'm so tired no sound gets through anymore." I wanted to say, "I listen all night, the baby's cries, my chest wheezing, the fear whispering, if you faint right now, who will hold the baby?" But I didn't. I threw out another line. "Dad also told me to talk to you about your weight." "Yes," I lied. I dragged Dad in to give my words weight. I knew I was cornering her. I knew. And I still did it. That evening, while tidying toys, I saw her husband look at me. Polite, gentle eyes, like all kind men have. I knew his type, soft-spoken, but if it comes to defending his wife, he stands like a wall. I muttered a greeting, my bones heavy as lead. By 8:30, the baby was asleep. By 9, the boy was snoring. I collapsed into a chair, rubbing my temples. She sat across from me, hugging a pillow. The TV showed a weight loss program. A girl's before and after. The audience clapped wildly. She sighed. "She's really good." I switched off the TV. "She's good because she stood up," I said. "You just sit." Her breath hitched. "Stop it." "I'll stop when you get up." She looked at me like I was a beast. "What more do you want?" "I've been here all week." "Here. Then at 6 you go home." "Here." Like clocking in. I laughed. "Thanks. But that kind of thanks gets paid back with sulking." Maybe at that moment, anyone watching from the outside would hate me. I heard my own words and felt goosebumps rise all over my skin. But on the other hand, her silence made me want to smash the table. I knew she was scared. I knew she was in pain. But I carried a different kind of pain. The kind that makes you climb onto your own back to haul your life forward. "You're ugly," I blurted out. One word, ugly, shot from my teeth like a stone. Her face turned pale. I could almost hear glass cracking. "You're lazy," I added. "You won't even pull yourself off that sofa." She choked. I saw her hands trembling. God, I knew that sign. That panic attack rising like a wave. But when you've lived long enough with storms, you start to despise the waves. "You're selfish with your future child," I said. "You think silence is gentleness. Silence is cruelty to yourself." "Stop it," she whispered. "Don't say any more. I'm having an attack." "Have it," I muttered. "At least that's a reaction." That line, when I remember it now, was the cruelest thing I ever said. Night fell. The fridge hummed softly. I carried the baby into the room, laid him down, came back out. She was still sitting there, her eyes wet. I stood in the middle of the living room, my hands empty, feeling my life split in two halves. One half the mother dragging a car up a rainy hill. The other half the sister throwing stones at her sibling to force her to run. I hated both. I needed both. "Tomorrow," I said, "you'll walk with me." "Not much. 20 minutes. She shook her head. "I'm tired." "Tired is the biggest reason people need to get up." I panted. 7 o'clock. "I'll knock." She didn't answer. I turned off the light, went back to the room. In my head was the sound of footsteps. The footsteps of a woman who has to be mother, father, wall, lamp, everything. The next morning, 5 minutes to 7, I was already outside her door. I raised my hand to knock. Then let it drop. Inside was a faint breath. Maybe she had just dozed off. I stood there, my hand trembling, and felt in my chest a dry well. No strength left to be kind. No strength left to be cruel. I turned away, went down to the kitchen, the kettle starting to whistle. I poured the water. My phone buzzed. A message from Dad. A photo of the sea. Harsh sunlight. The words, "Everything okay?" I typed, "Okay." I erased it. I typed again, "Okay." I erased it again. Finally, I sent a thumbs up emoji, the language adults use when they don't have the courage to tell the truth. "Sis." Her voice rasped behind me, thin and raw. I turned. She stood there, eyes red, hands cradling her stomach as if holding something invisible. I'm sorry about last night. I gripped the cup handle tight. Yeah, I answered. Today let's just start over. I didn't hug her. I was afraid if I hugged, I would cry. That noon, when her husband came to pick up my boy from school, I glanced out the window. Sunlight poured over the gleaming roof of their new car. I heard myself let out a breath, short and broken like a sob. That was it, half a day of peace before the real storm rolled in. And I, the eldest sister, the woman cut by a knife in places no one could see, was ready to say the thing the whole family would hate me for. You must change. Not tomorrow. Now. Don't push me, she whispered. No one is pushing you, I replied. And in that instant, I knew I was lying. I still remember that afternoon clearly. Late sunlight slanted through the curtains, gold spilling across the baby's face in my arms. He slept, breathing evenly, but in my chest was a thunderstorm. My sister sat across from me, fingers locked tight, eyes swollen red. I spoke. She fell silent. I asked. She avoided. That silence, to me, was not gentleness. It was defiance. Do you plan to change at all? I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm. I'm trying, she stammered. Trying? Trying how? Sitting on the sofa all week. Is that trying? She swallowed. Said nothing. I heard the hiss inside my own head. Silent again. Always silent. I shot to my feet, marched up in front of the TV and pointed straight at her. You're lazy. You're ugly. You won't even bother to stand up. Have you thought about your child in the future? What kind of mother will you be? She trembled, fists clenching her shirt. I knew she was in the middle of an attack. I recognized it instantly, heart racing, breath broken. But instead of softening, I said the words that still echo like blades. At least an attack proves you're alive. Sitting still like this, you're already dead. Her eyes went blank. She shot up, staggered outside. I heard the stairwell door, the heavy footsteps. I held my baby tighter, breathing in, and my father's old words echoed in my head. She's fragile. Don't push too hard. But how could I not push? Life doesn't spare the weak. Before I could think further, the bedroom door swung open. My sister threw herself into her husband's arms. I followed, my voice rising. I'm her sister. I have the right to speak. I have the right to remind her. He didn't shout, but his gentle eyes flared with resolve. He slammed the door right in my face. Bang! The wood shuddered through my chest like a slap. In my own house. I inhaled sharply, clutching the baby tighter, then shoved the door open again. No one shuts a door on me in my own house. This is my house. Please, he said softly, still calm. She's having a panic attack. I'm trying to calm her down. I laughed bitterly, spitting out the words, this is my house, I'll say whatever I want. In that moment, the argument was no longer between me and my sister. It became a standoff between me and my brother-in-law. He held her close, eyes fixed on me like I was the enemy. And I, with a sleeping baby in my arms, stood in my own living room and felt myself being shoved out. My sister sobbed. I can't take it. Then she bolted into the bathroom. The sound of retching tore through the air, wave after wave. He rushed after her, leaving me alone in a room full of shadows. I screamed after them. There. Always the same. Running. Crying. Making the whole world pity you. Who can live your life for you? They didn't answer. I heard the bathroom door slam shut. The retching went on. I stood frozen for a few seconds, my heart pounding, feeling like I was locked outside a play I never wanted to be cast as the villain in. He came back, eyes red, voice tight. Stop dragging this out. Don't make her suffer more. I gave a bitter laugh. Suffer? She doesn't know what suffering is. Suffering is when your husband steals all your gold and disappears. Suffering is sitting on the floor 8 months pregnant with no one coming. Suffering is a baby crying all night until your tears dry up into stone. That's suffering. His voice hardened. You're wrong. This isn't the way. I shouted, my voice shattering like glass. No. The only way is to tell her the truth. She needs to hear it, even if she hates me. Just then, my sister stumbled out, pale, trembling hands. She looked at me as if to pierce straight through. Then she hissed between her teeth, voice small but ice cold. No wonder. He left you. I froze. My whole body felt sliced in half. Those words fell heavier than any slap I'd ever taken. In my arms, the baby stirred, wailed. I heard nothing except that sentence. No wonder he left you. I wanted to scream, to smash everything. But my throat locked tight. Then I saw her tears. She turned, grabbed her husband, and together they dragged themselves out the door. I heard the shuffle of sandals, the twist of the doorknob. I screamed after them. Fine, go. I swear I'll never ask you for anything again. Never. The door slammed. I stood abandoned in the dark house, my baby crying in my arms, my chest ripped open by one sentence. And I knew. From that moment on, she and I had fallen onto opposite sides of the same abyss. Only when the house was empty did the explosion truly happen inside me. The baby's cries rang like a fire alarm, and I rocked him with trembling hands, haunted by her words. No wonder he left you. I collapsed into a chair. My knees shook, breath ragged. Never, not even when my husband dragged the last suitcase out the door, had I felt this bare. Just one sentence. It cut deeper than a year of betrayal. I grabbed my phone, the screen lit up. A message. From her, no, from her husband. Cold as a verdict. From now on, consider my wife and our children dead to you. If you need to calculate gas money or anything else from this week, let us know, we'll pay. But don't contact us again. I bit my lip. My fingers shook as I typed. How dare you? Then deleted it. Typed again. I only spoke the truth. Deleted. In the end, I sent nothing. I tossed the phone on the table. That night, I didn't sleep. The baby cried 3 times. I rocked him, eyes dry, lips whispering like a curse. You say I deserve to be abandoned? I was abandoned already. And I'm still here. The next morning my father texted from his trip. Everything okay? I stared at the words, choking. I almost typed. Number. Your daughters just tore each other's hearts to pieces. But instead I sent a smiley face. I knew well. When he returned, he would side with her. He always did. He'd say, she's weak. You must give way. For years I'd heard that line. But what about me? Do I ever get to be given way? That afternoon, I sat with my 4-year-old. He asked, Mom, where's Auntie? I swallowed hard. She went home. Will Auntie come back? I froze. My son looked up, waiting. I gave a crooked smile. No, probably not. He lowered his head, whispered, but I like Auntie. I like Uncle too. Another crack split my heart. I hugged him, but inside me boiled a blind fury. You like her, and she treats your mother like trash. 3 days later, another message arrived, this time from her. Don't ever call me again. All you do is scream, curse, make me afraid. You're a terrible sister. You don't deserve me. I read it. Then I smirked. This time I replied without deleting. Yeah, I'm terrible. Terrible, but I survive. Terrible, but my kids still have a mother. You, without that gentle husband, would have fallen long ago. She didn't answer. That night after putting the baby to sleep, I found myself sitting alone in the living room, yellow light falling across the tiled floor. I listened to the wind hissing through the door. I recalled every detail. Her on the sofa, red-eyed, holding her stomach. I called her ugly, lazy, selfish. She called me the woman left behind. Who was right? Who was wrong? Or maybe we were the same, both crushed by life in different ways. The phone lit up again. Another message, this time from my father. I've heard your sister's side. I'll call when I have time. I'm tired. Don't trouble me more. I gripped the phone, teeth clenched. There. As I said. He always believes her. I wanted to reply. Dad, she's not innocent. She threw the cruelest words at me. But like always, I stayed silent. I've learned this. The silent one never loses immediately. That night, I wrote in my journal. Typed, deleted, typed, deleted. Finally, only one line remained. If I'm the bad one, at least I dare to speak. You. All you do is cry. I shut the laptop. The next day, a neighbor stopped by, hinting, last week the house was lively, now it's so quiet. I forced a smile. Yeah, families argue sometimes. But behind my back I heard them whisper, she's so harsh, poor younger sister. I walked on, hollow inside. Poor her? Who pities me? That night my boy asked again. Mom, Doesn't Auntie love you? I bit my lip, forcing back tears. It's okay. I still have you. But when he slept, I whispered into the dark. It's not that I don't love her. I love her enough to tear her out of that soft shell. I love her enough to let the world hate me rather than watch her wither away. I sat like that until morning, watching the clock crawl. Another day passed, and the distance between my sister and me stretched another mile. 5 days later, my father came home from his trip. He brought a small gift bag, a bottle of imported liquor, printed seaside photos still smelling of fresh paper. He sat on the couch, turned on the TV, sighed. Traveling is fun, but home is still better. I stood there, holding my baby, heart tangled. I knew this conversation couldn't be avoided. And just as I expected, he called me over. About last week. I've heard bits. Tell me your side. I inhaled deeply. I told him half-truths. I said she argued. I said she stayed silent until she burst into tears. I said her husband stepped in, shut the door, argued back. I said I only wanted her to change. I left out the words I hurled at her: ugly, lazy, selfish. I left out the sentence she carved into me. No wonder he left you. Father sat, face calm. Then he said, she told it differently. She said you cursed her, pushed her, made her spiral. Did you? I bit my lip. Dad, I only wanted her to stand up. If she stays this week, she'll end up killing herself. He looked straight at me, his old eyes heavy. Don't you see? You're becoming your mother. I froze. My heart clenched. Dad, why would you say that? He sighed, slow. Back then, your mother thought the same way. Always forcing you all to toughen up, obey, live as she demanded. Until the family exploded. She lost everything. Lost her husband. Lost her children. Do you remember? I swallowed hard. My mother's image flashed. Her screaming. Her scolding. Then collapsing. My hands shook. You're saying I'm like her? Yes. You are. And you're walking her path. You think you're protecting the kids, but you're making them afraid. You think you love your sister, but you're crushing her under your heel. I screamed, voice breaking. No, I'm not like her. She abandoned me when my husband betrayed me. You stayed silent. I had no choice but to harden myself. Otherwise, who would raise the kids? Who would protect them? He said nothing. Just looked at me. Shook his head. Then quietly. The price of what you call strength is what? You've already lost your sister. That sentence landed like a verdict. I sobbed, clutching the baby in my arms. She cried out, and I carried her into the room, my heart a tangled mess. 2 days later, I heard she had gone to see my father with her husband. They told everything, without leaving out a word. They even told the line I'll never forget. No wonder he left you. Father told me afterward, his face heavy. After listening, I just sighed. You two, like knives against each other. But this time, more of the fault lies with you. I trembled with rage. I shouted, it's always like this. Always me to blame. I'm not the only one at fault. Father stayed calm. She said she lost a child. She's weak. And you, her sister, stabbed straight into that wound. Isn't that the same as killing her again? I was stunned. I knew I was wrong, but I wouldn't admit it. I only screamed. She's weak to the core. If she never changes, her whole life will be nothing but tears. I won't let my children grow up like that. Father shook his head. You think you're saving, but really you're destroying. Look closely. Your 4-year-old is already used to his mother shouting. What do you want him to remember of his childhood? Shouts? Cries? Or the sound of your sister groaning in the bathroom from panic? I collapsed into the chair. For the first time, I was speechless. The conversation ended with one sentence from my father that would echo in my head for days. You say you're strong. But the truly strong are not the ones who shout the loudest. The truly strong are the ones who make others feel safe. I said nothing. I held my child, turned my face away, swallowed the tears. Inside I wondered, if I really am like my mother, will I be able to stop before I lose everything? The house was silent. But this silence wasn't peace. It was heavy, compressed, like concrete poured on my chest. I heard the ticking clock, the wind slipping through the door crack, and in my heart the echo of my father's words. The truly strong are the ones who make others feel safe. I sneered. Safe, huh? Has anyone ever asked if I was safe? I was abandoned 8 months pregnant. I stayed awake countless nights. I raised 2 children alone. Who gave me safety? I looked around the room, toys scattered everywhere, the sofa where my sister once sat, silent, teary-eyed. I saw her shadow still there. I heard again her whisper. No wonder he left you. I clutched my head, screamed, "Shut up, shut up." The baby startled, cried. I panicked, hugged her, soothed her. In her clear eyes, I saw myself, bare, ugly, bitter. I whispered, "My love. Your mother isn't a monster, she just doesn't know how to be gentle." The next day I received one final message from her husband. From now on, anything you want to say it to your father. With us, everything is finished. I threw the phone on the table. I shouted into the emptiness. Fine. Go. I'll never need you for the rest of my life. But when my voice echoed off the walls, it sounded hollow, like the cry of a failure trying to deceive herself. My 4-year-old ran out, eyes wide. Mom, why are you crying? I wiped my face, forced a smile. I'm not crying. I'm just shouting. Will Auntie come back? He asked. I choked. No, she's gone. I like Auntie. I like Uncle. I didn't answer. I turned away, biting my lip until it bled. My son loved her, while she tore his mother apart. So who was right? Who was wrong? That night I stood before the mirror. My hair wild, eyes sunken. I stared straight into myself and asked, "Are you the villain? Are you your mother? Have you destroyed everything?" The reflection said nothing. In my head, 2 voices spoke, one from my sister, one from my father. You're a terrible sister. You don't deserve me. You're repeating your mother. I slammed my hand on the sink. No, I'm not her. I'm not a monster. But then, a single tear slid down my cheek. This time, I whispered, not screamed. Or maybe, I really am the monster. I'm still writing these lines with the clock near 2 a.m. Both children are asleep. The house is quiet, terrifyingly so. I type, delete, as if each word is a scar cut into my skin. I think of her, the sister I once swore I would protect. I remember when we were kids, she fell off her bike, her knee bleeding. I carried her on my back, running home. She cried, clung to me. I was her shelter once. So when did I become the nightmare in her eyes? Maybe from the first time I yelled at her. Maybe from the day I forced her to be strong, when all she needed was a hug. Maybe from the day I believed love meant pushing hard. I sighed. I wondered. If tomorrow she knocked on my door again, would I open my arms? I want to believe I would. But maybe I'd still be harsh, bitter, still push her away. Because that's the only way I know to survive. So, am I the villain? Maybe. But I'm also the witness of my own life. A life wrecked by betrayal, by ruins, by endless nights rocking children with eyes wide open. If I'm wrong, my wrongness comes from distorted love. Love laced with fear. I don't know how to love gently. I only know how to love by shouting, by pushing others to the edge, hoping they'll learn to fly. Maybe I've lost my sister forever. Maybe she'll tell the world I'm a monster, a cruel sister. Maybe she's right, but if one day she stands tall enough to say, "Sis, I'm okay now," then I, the villain, will cry. And that time, I won't hide it. Until then, I'm still here. A mother, a sister, a woman. Not gentle, not kind, but alive, and surviving.